Chapter 1266. Shen Miaodu didn't expect Tianlong to be so anxious. Shen Miaodu just finished talking, and Tianlong asked him to think of a way, and now. Looking at Tianlong's eyes looking at him with expectation, Shen Miaodu felt a little scared. How is it? Have you thought of a way to make Sun Hongjun obedient? Tianlong stared at Shen Miaodu. This. Shen Miaodu really didn't know what to do. He was just talking nonsense to deal with Tianlong, but he didn't expect Tianlong to take it seriously. It's okay, you take your time to think. Tianlong might have found that he was too impatient, so he smiled apologetically. I am not in a hurry. Shen Miaodu breathed a sigh of relief and thought, as long as you don't rush me at this time, you don't have to rush me in this life. When Yang Ming comes, you won't have a chance to ask me again. Yang Ming and Wang Renping naturally didn't know that Tianlong was freaking out about the group's transfer of ownership. After the two saw Tianlong enter the nightclub, they began to plan to implement the plan. Mr. Yang, are we going in now? Wang Renping knew that since they were already here today, they would have to go in sooner or later, so it was better to go in earlier than later. Yang Ming nodded. His point of view was the same as Wang Renping's. Since they were here, they shouldn't drag it out. Solving it as soon as possible was the way to go. Yang Ming took out a pair of large sunglasses from the back of the car and put them on his face. Then he said to Wang Renping, "Take me in a while." No problem. Wang Renping nodded. In fact, it didn't matter if Yang Ming didn't disguise himself. In this nightclub, except for Tianlong and Shen Miaodu who knew Yang Ming, no one else had seen Yang Ming before. However, since Yang Ming chose to disguise himself, he also held the attitude that there was no harm in being careful and avoiding complications. The two people got out of the car together. Yang Ming naturally walked side by side with Wang Renping toward the entrance of the nightclub. Brother Wang. The security guards at the door naturally knew Wang Renping. When they saw Wang Renping coming over, they hurriedly greeted him. Wang Renping nodded casually. His footsteps didn't stop at all as he walked inside. Because Yang Ming came with Wang Renping, the security guard naturally wouldn't go up and ask questions. Besides, this was an entertainment venue, and it was open to the public. You couldn't possibly not let the guests in, right? Yang Ming had long predicted the smoothness of the matter. After all, Wang Renping's identity and status were there. He was a capable person under Tianlong, just like the status of his own subordinates, Bao Sanli and Ho Zhenhan. Therefore, she didn't have to worry about anything when he brought her in. The two of them successfully got into the elevator and went up to the 13th floor of Tianlong's office. Generally speaking, Shen Miaodu should be with Tianlong. It is possible that Li Xiangji is also there. Wang Renping said after the elevator door closed. Who is Li Xiangji? Asked Yang Ming. Li Xiangji is the third in command of the nightclub, but he is just a scumbag. There is nothing to be afraid of. I didn't call him yesterday because this kid is too cowardly. I was afraid that he would take things too hard after eating the voodoo. He would spill the beans when he goes back, said Wang Renping. Yang Ming nodded. People with this kind of character were rare, especially those who could sit in the position of the vice president of the nightclub. However, he probably belonged to the group of bootlickers. There were not many people taking the internal elevator. Only the management staff could take it, so no one else called for the elevator along the way. It went smoothly from the first floor to the 13th floor without stopping in the middle. A dong sounded, and the elevator stopped at the 13th floor. Let's go. Yang Ming glanced at Wang Renping and smiled faintly. Along the way, Wang Renping was very calm. However, when they got off the elevator, Yang Ming obviously noticed that Wang Renping seemed to be a little nervous, so he patted him on the shoulder to comfort him. This was no wonder. After all, Tianlong had always been very strong in Wang Rinping's heart. Although Yang Ming was stronger now, Wang Rinping would inevitably have psychological pressure if he stood with Yang Ming to deal with Tianlong. Nothing. Wang Rinping took a deep breath and shrugged. It could be seen that he quickly adjusted his emotions. "Which one is Tianlong's office?" asked Yang Ming as he looked at the deep corridor. There was no one in the corridor. Obviously, this was the location of the nightclub's high-level office. However, there was no bodyguard or security guard in the large corridor, which made Yang Ming a little surprised. Perhaps Tianlong thought that no one would dare to make trouble in his territory. "The innermost one is on the right." Wang Rinping pointed to the front and said to Yang Ming. Just as Yang Ming asked, Yang Ming also began to check the rooms in the corridor with his special ability. Sure enough, as Wang Rinping said, Tianlong was in the room on the right at the end of the corridor. There were two other people in the room. One was Shen Miaotu, whom he saw yesterday, and the other man who looked a little wretched was probably Li Xiangji, whom Wang Rinping mentioned. Yang Ming's guess was not wrong. There was no security guard in this corridor. First, the nightclub had never had this rule. Second, Tianlong was too arrogant. He thought that there were countless security guards in this nightclub, and no one dared to make trouble here. Dang dang dang. There was a knock on the door of Tianlong's office. Tianlong was placing his hopes on Shen Miaotu at the moment, and his mind was not elsewhere at all. He said casually, "Please come in." Wang Rinping pushed the door open and entered Tianlong's office. "Oh, it's Rinping. You are here." Tianlong saw that the person who came was Wang Rinping and nodded. "It just so happens that we are discussing something. You should also come and study it together." "Oh. What is it?" Wang Rinping was sent in by Yang Ming to be the vanguard. The purpose was to control Li Xiangji. Although Li Xiangji was not a problem, a cornered dog would jump over the wall. Yang Ming was afraid that he would be a hindrance, so he asked Wang Rinping to come in and send him away first. "It's like this." Tianlong raised his hand, glanced at Li Xiangji, and said, "You should say it." Li Xiangji was eager to have such an opportunity to show off himself. He stuck out his butt and quickly came to Wang Rinping. He said flatteringly, "Brother Wang, things are like this. Isn't this the case? Our brother Long has now gotten the Sun family's industry." Wang Rinping nodded and waited for him to continue. "But these industries are under the name of the old fart, Sun Hongjun. When we go to transfer the ownership, they say that Sun Hongjun, the old chicken lamp, must be present in person." Li Xiangji said, "This has put Brother Shen and me in a difficult situation. We don't know what to do." "Oh, it is indeed a problem." Wang Rinping agreed and hummed. "Yeah, Brother Shen has come up with a good idea." Not to be outdone, Li Xiangji continued, "What Brother Shen means is, since Sun Hongjun, that old chicken lantern, must be present, then we can let him go with Brother Long. But how can we guarantee that Sun Hongjun will be obedient and not cause trouble?" "Oh, I was wondering what it was." Wang Rinping suddenly grinned after listening. "Why, Rinping? Do you have a good idea?" Tianlong was delighted after listening to Wang Rinping's words. He thought that Wang Rinping had a way. "Can you persuade Sun Hongjun to transfer the ownership obediently?" "I can't, but someone can." Wang Rinping said somewhat strangely. "Who? Who is it?" Tianlong said anxiously, "Who has such a great ability?" "I brought this person to you today, Brother Long." Wang Rinping smiled and made an inviting gesture. Just as Tianlong was waiting for this capable person to come in with joy, the smile on his face suddenly froze. Because he was too familiar with the person who came in. "Mr. Tian, how have you been? Yang Ming walked into Tianlong's office and looked at Tianlong with a smile as if he came to visit an old friend that he had not seen for many years. Yang Ming. Tianlong frowned. He was not stupid. He immediately realized that something seemed to be wrong. Why did Wang Renping bring Yang Ming? Renping, what do you mean? Nothing, Brother Long. I have been very unhappy with you for a long time. After Wang Renping said a very classic sentence, he took the opportunity to knock out Li Xiangji, who was at a loss, with a punch. This Li Xiangji was originally a timid guy, and the sudden change made him at a loss, so just as he was at a loss, he unknowingly fainted. Tianlong's face suddenly changed. He did not expect that the most trusted person around him would mix with Yang Ming. This was what he did not expect, and he did not think of it at all. However, Tianlong's eyes glanced slightly, and he saw that Shen Miaotu was pulling out a gun from his waist. His heart was set. He saw that Yang Ming and Wang Renping both came in empty-handed, and their waists were not bulging. Naturally, they did not bring any weapons. Miaotu, kill them. Tianlong snorted and ordered. Raise your hands, or I will kill you with one shot. Shen Miaotu's gloomy voice sounded. Tianlong's heart was relieved, and he looked at Yang Ming and Wang Renping mockingly. He thought, you two idiots and idiots. Don't you know that I have a gun? Aren't you looking for death by breaking in like this? Tianlong wanted to see Yang Ming and Wang Renping's embarrassed appearance, but he did not see Yang Ming and Wang Renping raise their hands. He suddenly felt a little strange. Why don't you raise your hands and squat aside with your head in your hands? Aren't you afraid of being shot? Not afraid. Yang Ming glanced at Tianlong and said with a weird expression. What? Tianlong did not hear clearly. He thought, is this Yang Ming crazy? No matter how badass you are, you can't be invulnerable, right? Brother Long, you are mistaken. Wang Renping pointed behind Tianlong sympathetically. Tianlong may have realized that things seemed to be wrong. When he turned around, he found that the person Shen Miaotu's black muzzle pointed at was actually him. Brother Long, I'm sorry. I have tolerated you for a long time, said Shen Miaotu faintly. Tianlong's mood from the ridicule and arrogance just now suddenly fell to the bottom. He couldn't believe the facts in front of him. He just saw that Yang Ming and Wang Renping were actually together. Although he was shocked, he was very dismissive of the way they dared to challenge him alone. Not to mention that Shen Miaotu was also a master who was not inferior to Wang Renping, not to mention that Shen Miaotu had a gun in his hand. There were hundreds of security guards in this nightclub. With an order, even if no one spat, they could drown the two of them, so Tianlong didn't take it seriously at all. But now, the gap was a bit too big. Not only did Wang Renping and Yang Ming mix together, but even Shen Miaotu was actually with Yang Ming, pointing a gun at Tianlong. For a time, Tianlong had a feeling of being betrayed. He finally understood how Sun Hongjun felt when Wang Renping pointed a gun at him. It was a kind of helplessness, bitterness, and simply impossible to guard against. Although he didn't know how Yang Ming did this, Tianlong roughly knew that there was only the method of coercion and bribery. Didn't I use this method to deal with the people around Sun Hongjun? Yang Ming, it seems that I have underestimated you. Tianlong took a deep breath and stared at Yang Ming. He was about to spit fire. You played this trick well. It is exactly the same as my original approach. You still know that you played a trick. Yang Ming sat down comfortably on the big sofa at the side and looked at Tianlong. You tell me. How should I deal with you? What's wrong with playing a trick? Tianlong said coldly, do you think you are upholding justice? Or enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? Why do I feel that you don't feel that you have done something wrong, but it seems that I am meddling. Yang Ming found it funny after listening to Tianlong's words. I did something wrong. What did I do wrong? Tianlong suddenly laughed. Yang Ming, you stand on the Sun family's side. Naturally, you feel that I did something wrong, but what did I do wrong? More than half of Sun Hongjuan's businesses were built with me, but what did I get in the end? When did he ever think about giving me a part of his big industry? He didn't. He didn't even have this idea at all. He thought that he deserved all this. Why? 2 people contributed, but only he got the benefits. Didn't I give you shares? Yang Ming looked at the crazy Tianlong and said faintly. Give me shares. You really have the nerve to say that. He only gave me 5% of the shares of such a big group. Tianlong said, how much does he have? 60%. Sun Hongjun is fine, but he wants to leave a big foundation to a woman. He wants me to bow down to Sun Jie. Humph. Even if I don't think for myself, I have to think for Donghua and Dongguang. I am a fucking dog of the Sun family. I don't want them to repeat my mistakes. Dog? Yang Ming said disapprovingly, is Sun Hongjun not good enough to you? When did he treat you as a dog? He didn't, but what about in the future? After Sun Jia and Sun Jiwei are in power, do you want me to listen to the words of 2 little kids? Tianlong waved his hand angrily. Why? You are looking for an excuse for what you have done. Yang Ming looked at the unreasonable Tianlong and shook his head. Does Tian Donghua have the same idea as you? Him. Humph, if he didn't persuade me not to do anything to you again and again, do you think you still have the chance to stand here and talk to me? Tianlong heard Yang Ming's question and snorted. He will understand my pains sooner or later. Yang Ming suddenly found it funny. This Tianlong is really shameless. With his means, can he deal with me? He really doesn't feel pain when he speaks. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Yang Ming looked at Tianlong. If you really care about Tian Donghua's opinion, can you still put him under house arrest? Really? Tianlong's mouth suddenly showed a strange sneer. Then his right arm suddenly burst out, grabbed the gun in Shen Miaodu's hand, and squeezed it hard. Tianlong let go, but Shen Miaodu was shocked and subconsciously pulled the trigger. Bang! Accompanied by a shrill scream, the pistol exploded. Half of Shen Miaodu's palm had been blown off. This unforeseen event was so sudden that even Yang Ming was caught off guard. However, Yang Ming clearly saw the strange scene just now. Tianlong actually flattened the gun barrel in Shen Miaodu's hand, and then quickly let go of his hand. However, the panicked Shen Miaodu obviously did not notice this. He subconsciously thought that Tianlong was going to take the gun to deal with him, so he pulled the trigger. Unfortunately, half of his palm had been blasted off, and blood was dripping everywhere. It was a terrifying sight. Yang Ming, Yang Ming. You are so naive. Do you think that you can deal with me by bribing a few waists? Tianlong laughed presumptuously, and the muscles on his body also bulged with the laughter. The people present were not only Shen Miaodu and Wang Renping. Even Yang Ming was shocked. Is this Tianlong still a human? His thwart training kung fu has actually reached such a level. However, in the face of such a change, Yang Ming did not have the slightest timidity and confusion. His hand shook slightly, and a flying needle had already fallen into Yang Ming's hand. Just as Tianlong opened his arms to catch Yang Ming, the flying needle in Yang Ming's hand was also thrown at Tianlong's paw. The flying needle hit Tianlong's neck, but it fell to the ground without any harm to Tianlong. Kid, you also know how to use concealed weapons. It's not simple, right? Tianlong did not expect that Yang Ming actually knew how to throw concealed weapons. He secretly felt lucky in his heart. If I didn't use my martial arts in advance because of anger, I'm afraid that I would have fallen into this kid's trap. Previously, he still wanted to play with Yang Ming, but now he put it away. It seems that this kid is really capable. Thinking of this, Tianlong's eyes became redder, and the muscles on his body bulged even more. It was even possible that his shirt would burst. Yang Ming was really a little stunned at this moment. His tried and tested flying needles actually had no effect on Tianlong. It didn't even penetrate Tianlong's skin, let alone his acupoints. Yang Ming was confident that the strength of his flying needles was very strong. Not to mention human skin, even wood and glass could be easily penetrated by it. However, a strange thing happened in front of him. His flying needle was actually blocked and fell to the ground. Chapter 1267. Seeing that Yang Ming and the others were stunned, Tianlong couldn't help but smile proudly. You still don't know, right? I was the most outstanding disciple of Shaolin Temple. Do you think you can cause trouble for me just because you know some small tricks? You are really overestimating yourself. Shaolin Temple. Disciple. Yang Ming was slightly stunned, and he immediately understood in his mind. Originally, he thought that this Tianlong also practiced some evil martial arts similar to Elder Yu and made himself invulnerable, but now he understood after listening to Tianlong Shaolin Temple's Thwart Kung Fu was the best in the world. The Golden Bell Shield and Iron Mantle all originated from there. It seemed that Tianlong had received the true teachings and had trained his skin and flesh to be extremely hard. Speaking of Shaolin Temple's Golden Bell Shield and Iron Mantle, many people thought that it was just a legend in wuxia novels. In fact, it didn't exist, but Yang Ming knew that these kung fu really existed. After coming into contact with the assassin world, Yang Ming had dabbled a little in various sects kung fu in the world. Naturally, he also knew several kung fu of Shaolin Temple. In fact, whether it was Iron Mantle, Golden Bell Shield, or Iron Palm, these weren't magical. They were all using Chinese medicine to change the person's muscles and bones. Then, with the addition of thousands of hammering, it made the body extremely hard. This was the same as when Yang Ming practiced boxing. Fong Tian gave him Chinese medicine to soak his hands and feet. It was to strengthen the body through pharmacology. Yang Ming also guessed at the time that this Chinese medicine might have evolved from Shaolin Temple's Golden Bell Shield, Iron Mantle, or Iron Palm. However, Yang Ming's practice time was still short, and it only played the role of increasing the strength of his boxing. It was impossible to be like those who practiced since childhood, who practiced until they were invulnerable. Now it seemed that Tianlong was such a person. This was what Yang Ming didn't expect. Yang Ming glanced at Wang Renping and Shen Miaotu from the corner of his eyes. He saw that both of them were also horrified and inexplicable. He knew that Tianlong usually hit it deeply. Even Wang Renping, who had followed him for 10 years, didn't know that he had a unique skill. Logically speaking, with Tianlong's skills, he didn't need bodyguards at all, but he still left a group of bodyguards in front and behind to protect him. This could only be said to be a cover-up. Perhaps even Sun Hongjun didn't know that Tianlong had such a trick up his sleeve. Indeed, no one knew the history of Tianlong being a disciple of Shaolin when he was young. Even Sun Hongjun and Wang Renping didn't know about it. They only knew that he had a good relationship with several Shaolin Temple disciples. When Wang Renping was sent to train, the instructor who trained him was from Shaolin. Wang Renping's kung fu was mostly from Shaolin, but it definitely did not involve the Golden Bell Shield and Iron Mantle. What they learned was some actual combat. Even so, Wang Renping never thought that Tianlong was actually such a Shaolin master. He originally thought that these instructors were only invited by Tianlong at a high price to guide their kung fu. But now it seemed that this was not the case. Tianlong and these Shaolin Temple disciples instructors had a deep relationship. At least, they should be brothers. Yang Ming, you didn't expect it, right? Tianlong saw that the people present were shocked, and he was even more complacent. He liked this feeling of having everything under control. I know that you have some kung fu, and I know your position in Songjiang. It's not a big deal to use money to win over a few of my men, but you want to use these few wastes to deal with me. You are really too whimsical. Yang Ming looked at Tianlong coldly, but he wasn't angry. He seemed to be angry and couldn't speak. Indeed, Yang Ming underestimated Tianlong's strength. This was the biggest mistake made by the failure of this operation. He never thought that a helper around Sun Hongjun actually had such a terrifying origin. This was something that Wang Renping and Tian Donghua had never mentioned before. Tian Donghua and Tian Dongguang didn't know that Tianlong had a secret technique. This was certain. Because if Tian Dongguang really knew that his father was so powerful, he wouldn't be bothering to ask Wang Renping to be his disciple. Wouldn't it be more awesome to practice Shaolin Kung Fu with his father directly? For this kind of secret technique that was passed down through the ages, although Yang Ming didn't want to admit it, he had to admit that these Kung Fu were definitely very powerful. He wasn't an opponent. Perhaps even if his master, Fang Tian, came in person, it was impossible to get any benefits. Seeing that Yang Ming didn't speak and was sulking there, Tianlong was even more refreshed. Why aren't you awesome? Weren't you awesome just now? Is there anyone who can persuade Sun Hongjun to be obedient? Well, then you go and persuade him for me. I will tie you up and accompany him. As Tianlong spoke, he reached out and grabbed Yang Ming. Unexpectedly, Yang Ming didn't resist this time, but he was obediently caught by Tianlong and Tianlong was a bit surprised. Yang Ming didn't struggle, but immediately, he figured it out. I'm too strong. Yang Ming's struggle is asking for trouble. It's better to be captured. It seems that you are still very self-aware. You know to be obedient. Humph. Yang Ming snorted and didn't respond. Tianlong was more convinced that Yang Ming knew that he couldn't beat him, so he became so obedient. Tianlong was suddenly overjoyed. He took out a leather rope from nowhere and tied Yang Ming's hands together. Yang Ming also let Tianlong tie him together. After tying up Yang Ming, Tianlong tied up Wang Renping and Shen Miaotu. The two simply didn't struggle. Wang Renping was also a peripheral Shaolin sect disciple. He knew how terrifying Tianlong's kung fu was. He wouldn't be Tianlong's opponent at all, so Wang Renping could only obediently be captured. Otherwise, he would be asking for trouble. Humph. I will deal with you two traitors when I come back. Tianlong picked up Yang Ming from behind and walked to the door of the office. Leaving Wang Renping and Shen Miaotu in the office, he didn't bother with them. Tianlong's heart was about to explode with joy. Originally, he thought that after Tian Donghua told Yang Ming that he was going to deal with Yang Ming wouldn't come to Donghai easily. Even if he came to Donghai, he might come with the police. Then, Tianlong really had no way to deal with him. No matter how badass Tianlong was, it was impossible to openly go against the police, right? That was purely looking for death. Therefore, Tianlong felt that there was no hope in this matter. He could only live up to the efforts of the behind-the-scenes boss, but he didn't expect a godsend opportunity. This guy, Yang Ming, is too arrogant and overconfident. He bribed Wang Renping and Shen Miaotu, and he was delusional to think that he could deal with me. In the end, isn't he still caught by me? It's really a case of searching high and low for something, but finding it without any effort. It was so easy to catch Yang Ming. This was what Tianlong didn't expect. But fortunately, he always had a backup plan. Tianlong didn't tell anyone that he was a disciple of Shaolin. He didn't even mention it to his sons, Tian Donghua and Tian Dongwang. This was a secret in his heart. When he was 5 years old, because of a drought in his hometown, his parents died one after another, so Tianlong was alone in a foreign place. Fortunately, he was adopted by a kind person in Shaolin Temple at that time and became a Shaolin disciple. Because Tianlong was talented and diligent, more than 10 years later, Tianlong actually practiced the Shaolin's Golden Bell Shield. He had a body of bronze muscles and iron bones. After learning the skill, he finally had to go down the mountain after passing the 18 bronze men array. After going down the mountain, Tianlong found that the outside world had changed. It had become a place of debauchery. Having martial arts had no practical significance at all. So, after going north, he began to do small business. However, relying on his own martial arts, he quickly mixed in a place. Of course, at that time, Tianlong obeyed the teachings of Shaolin. He didn't bully others with his own martial arts. Only when he was bullied by others, he fought back. However, he didn't use Shaolin's secret arts, but some ordinary martial arts. He didn't want to hurt others. He just gave a little punishment. Therefore, many people who were taught a lesson by him only knew that Tianlong's martial arts were very powerful, but they never knew his master and origin. Later, Tianlong met Sun Hongjun. The two people assisted each other and built a big business. Tianlong's heart, from the previous simple and kind, became blinded by greed and gradually blackened. Until now, he was blinded by utilitarianism and did treacherous things. In the big vat of debauchery, Tianlong lost himself and forgot the oath when he went down the mountain in Shaolin Temple. He became an out-and-out villain. Perhaps it was because he knew that his current style didn't match that of a Shaolin disciple, or perhaps he wanted to keep a trump card. In short, he never mentioned to others that he was a Shaolin disciple. But now it seemed that Tianlong definitely wanted to keep a trump card, not because he felt that what he did was inconsistent with the purpose of Shaolin Temple. This could be seen from his boasting just now. Tianlong had already been completely corrupted by benefits. This was the secret deep in his heart, but it became an important reason for turning defeat into victory today. Tianlong had endured for so many years, and finally at the most critical moment, he used his life's knowledge. Originally, Tianlong also planned to do so. Unless it was a last resort, he would never show his Shaolin's secret arts in front of outsiders. This was something to save his life. But now, at this moment, he had to use it. Shen Miaotu pointed a gun at him, and Wang Renping and Yang Ming were eyeing him. Although at first, Tianlong wanted to use this to deter Yang Ming and others. Tianlong admitted that he wanted to show off, but then Tianlong knew how wise his decision was. Yang Ming actually knew how to throw a concealed weapon, and the direction and position of the concealed weapon made Tianlong's forehead and back shiver. The acupuncture points on the neck were the most concentrated, and the accuracy of Yang Ming's shot made Tianlong speechless. Although the flying needle couldn't enter Tianlong's body, Tianlong wasn't a person without perception. Tianlong could still feel where the flying needle was shot. When the flying needle touched Tianlong's neck, Tianlong's heart jumped out of his chest. Tianlong was also a person who practiced martial arts since childhood. How could he not know the location of the human body's acupuncture points? With Yang Ming's accuracy, if the flying needle was really pierced, then Tianlong knew that the loser lying down now would be him. Once the acupuncture point was pierced, he would temporarily lose his mobility and be controlled by Yang Ming. At that time, even if he had the power of Jin Gang, he couldn't reverse the situation. Thinking of this, Tianlong secretly felt lucky. It seems that Yang Ming dared to come to me, not because he was overestimating himself. He must have something up his sleeve. Yang Ming's flying needle skill couldn't be underestimated. Therefore, Tianlong tied Yang Ming's hands behind his back. In this way, Yang Ming couldn't do anything to harm him. Tianlong carried Yang Ming out of the office, entered the elevator, and pressed the button for the basement floor. Tianlong intended to put Yang Ming under house arrest in the abandoned junkyard. Wasn't he close to the Sun family? Well, I'll put him with the Sun family. Tianlong could lift Yang Ming with his left hand without any effort. This showed that Tianlong's muscles and bones had been trained to the top level. Yang Ming couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't be exhausted after carrying a person for so long. Even when they entered the elevator, Tianlong still carried Yang Ming, and he looked very relaxed. This showed that Tianlong's physical strength was very good. Yang Ming had to admit that Tianlong was much stronger than himself. When they came to the underground parking lot, Tianlong opened the door of a commercial car with the remote control and threw Yang Ming into the trunk. Then, he closed the trunk door and jumped into the driver's seat. Although there were security guards patrolling in the underground parking lot, they simply turned a blind eye to Tianlong carrying a person out of the car. First, it was because Tianlong was the boss here. Everyone was working under him. Who dared to ask Tianlong about things? The second point was that some of the people who played in the nightclub drank too much and made trouble or didn't pay. Such people naturally had to be dragged out to teach them a lesson. Therefore, when these security guards saw a person being dragged out, they weren't surprised. They didn't think it was a strange thing at all. Yang Ming was thrown into the trunk of the car, but he didn't say anything. Tianlong was a bit puzzled. This Yang Ming didn't look like such a person. Why didn't he resist at all? After thinking about it, there was only one explanation. That was, Yang Ming knew that he wasn't Tianlong's opponent at all. Resistance was futile, so it was better not to waste energy. This possibility was the most appropriate. Thinking of this, Tianlong was relieved. He drove the car out of the nightclub and headed in the direction of the abandoned junkyard. For Yang Ming to be able to bribe Wang Renping and Shin Miaodu, Tianlong was quite impressed. Yang Ming could do such a big thing quietly under his nose. It also showed that Yang Ming was not a simple person. No wonder Song Jiang's Bao Sonli and Ho Shinhan followed his lead. In just 1 year, Yang Ming established his own economic empire in Songjiang. However, so what if he is great? Isn't he still caught by me? Tianlong snorted. This kid is still too inexperienced. But it is a pity. If such a talent could be used by me, it would be great. Tianlong also knew that it was impossible. He and Yang Ming were now incompatible like fire and water. He didn't expect Yang Ming to rely on him. This time, Tianlong simply didn't look for a driver to drive. Instead, he personally escorted Yang Ming to the junkyard. It was also because he felt that Yang Ming, this kid, was really terrible. If he could bribe the people around him, then his other drivers could also be bribed. Therefore, Tianlong personally drove Yang Ming. Seeing that Tianlong had returned, Zhang Jingguo was puzzled, but he still had to show it on the surface, so he quickly ran out to meet Tianlong. However, he saw Tianlong carrying a person out of the trunk of the car. Zhang Jingguo didn't feel anything at first. Tianlong regarded this place as a place where he put others under house arrest. It was not a big deal to send one more person. However, when Zhang Jingguo saw the appearance of the person in Tianlong's hand, he was suddenly shocked. The person in Tianlong's hand is actually Yang Ming. Yang Ming's plan failed. How is it possible? Zhang Jingguo couldn't believe it. The powerful Yang Ming, who could kill 2 people with a raise of his hand, actually became Tianlong's prisoner. However, the facts were in front of him. Zhang Jingguo couldn't help but believe it. Yang Ming was indeed tied behind his back with a rubber band. He was carried out of the car by Tianlong. After confirming that the person in Tianlong's hand was Yang Ming, Zhang Jinghua's heart suddenly turned cold. Yang Ming was caught. What should they do? They were forced by Yang Ming to swallow the voodoo. If something happened to Yang Ming, wouldn't they also die? Thinking of this, Zhang Jinghua almost cried. However, in front of Tianlong, he had to pretend to smile. There was no other way. If Tianlong knew that he had taken refuge with Yang Ming, then there would be no good outcome. Perhaps he would be executed by Tianlong now. Therefore, Zhang Jinghua could only smile and greet him, "Brother Long, why are you back again?" This is. Of course, Zhang Jinghua had to pretend that he didn't know Yang Ming. Because before yesterday, he didn't know who Yang Ming was. At this time, if he exposed a flaw, then he would be dead. This is the Yang Ming I mentioned before. Lock him up with the Sun family. As Tianlong said this, he threw Yang Ming to the ground and instructed Zhang Jinghua. "Yes, Brother Long." Zhang Jinghua pulled Yang Ming up from the ground and responded quickly. However, he could only smile bitterly in his heart. After Tianlong left, "I will ask Yang Ming what is going on." "What is going on? What is going on here?" "But no matter what, I'm in a favorable position. Yang Ming is under my watch. I can get the antidote first." As for the others, it wasn't something Zhang Jinghua could worry about, so Zhang Jinghua could only take care of himself first. "Let's go." Zhang Jinghua pushed Yang Ming and entered the door of the junkyard. He didn't dare to be too harsh. That would offend Yang Ming, but he didn't dare to be too gentle. That would arouse Tianlong's suspicion. Zhang Jinghua was really in a dilemma. But fortunately, Yang Ming didn't seem to know him at all. He didn't respond to his shouts. He stood up very obediently and followed Zhang Jinghua into the junkyard. Chapter 1268. Zhang Jinghua wanted to ask Yang Ming what he was doing, but Tianlong was watching from behind. He couldn't be too close to Yang Ming. In desperation, he had to pretend that he didn't know Yang Ming and escorted Yang Ming into the junkyard. However, after entering the room, Zhang Jinghua looked back and found that Tianlong didn't follow. He couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Yang, you are?" Yang Ming changed his previous decadent expression. He winked at Zhang Jinghua and smiled slightly, but this was only very short. After a while, Yang Ming returned to his normal expression. Zhang Jinghua was stunned, but he immediately understood Yang Ming's meaning. Yang Ming wanted him to feel at ease. Thinking of this, Zhang Jinghua was relieved. Although he didn't know what Yang Ming was going to do, he thought that there was an important plan. Seeing that there were other people coming from behind, Zhang Jinghua quickly restored his previous indifferent expression. He took Yang Ming to the door of the big room where the Sun family was imprisoned. He shouted to the man behind him, "Go and open the door." "Yes." The man quickly responded. He found the key and was ready to open the door. Sun Hongjun was angry with what Tianlong said yesterday. Sun Jia was also helpless. Yesterday, she just made her father's mood better, and Tianlong came to make things worse. This made Sun Hongjun, who was already very depressed, sigh even more. "Little Jia, you said that Tianlong wanted to catch Yang Ming. What should we do?" Sun Hongjun sighed. "Dad, don't think so much. How can Yang Ming be caught so easily?" Sun Jia also felt that Yang Ming couldn't be caught by Tianlong so easily. Things are unpredictable. Yang Ming is smart and does things steadily, but in the end, the older the ginger, the spicier it is. How can he be the opponent of Tianlong, an experienced person? Sun Hongjun sighed and said, "Originally, I also thought that Yang Ming might be able to save us, but after listening to Tianlong's words yesterday, this possibility is not big. Sun Jia was also smart. She immediately understood what her father meant. You mean that Tianlong's next target is Yang Ming? Judging from Tianlong's ambition, he won't allow anyone to ruin his plan. Sun Hongjun nodded and said, now, Yang Ming is his potential opponent. He can't let Yang Ming continue to be a dangerous existence. He will definitely make the first move. Yeah, if Tianlong didn't hear our discussion yesterday. Sun Jia completely attributed Tianlong's actions and thoughts toward Yang Ming to Tianlong overhearing their conversation yesterday. If Tianlong didn't hear it, he wouldn't have thought of this. It's all my fault for talking too much. Sun San's heart was uncomfortable because he wanted to persuade Sun Hongjun yesterday, so he casually mentioned Yang Ming. He didn't expect Tianlong to be alerted. If Tianlong wanted to deal with Yang Ming, he would become a sinner. Uncle San, this can't be blamed on you. Sun Jia shook her head, but she hoped that Yang Ming wouldn't be so easily dealt with by Tianlong. If it was so easy to be dealt with by Tianlong, then he wasn't worthy to be Sun Jia's man. There was no need to look at him at all. Sun Jia thought so, but in fact, she still had some expectations for Yang Ming. It was impossible to say that Sun Jia had no feelings for Yang Ming, but Sun Jia was a rational person. She had never given Yang Ming a clear answer because Sun Jia herself wasn't sure if Yang Ming was the man who had enough ability to protect her for a lifetime. In the past, she had almost made a wrong choice. Sun Jia was naturally careful now. As she grew older, her mind was more mature than before. Therefore, her ideal man must have enough ability. At least, he must be stronger than her, Sun Jia. If Yang Ming was so easy to be caught by Tianlong, then she had nothing to say. However, everyone in the Sun family didn't expect that Tianlong wanted to deal with Yang Ming. It wasn't because of a few words from them. Tianlong wanted to deal with Yang Ming premeditated. It could be said that it had nothing to do with the Sun family. Even if there was no relationship between Yang Ming and the Sun family, since the behind-the-scenes boss asked so, Tianlong had to try his best to deal with Yang Ming. There was the sound of a key opening the door from outside. This time, the people in the Sun family learned to be smart and shut their mouths in a timely manner. They didn't want Tianlong to hear anything. You go in. In front of outsiders, Zhang Jinghua still had to be stiff and strong. He couldn't let outsiders see his relationship with Yang Ming, including the people in the Sun family. Although the people in the Sun family and Yang Ming were on the same side, there were too many people. Who knew if they would be exposed at that time? Seeing that the door was opened, the people in the Sun family thought that Tianlong had returned and was going to say something unpleasant. However, they didn't expect that the person who was escorted in was actually Yang Ming. Yang Ming. Sun Jia's eyes widened. She couldn't believe the facts in front of her. Isn't this Yang Ming too cowardly? Last night, we were just talking about him, and today he was caught by Tianlong. Even if you can't beat Tianlong, you have to persist for a while before being caught, right? How did you get caught directly? Thinking of this, Sun Jia felt disappointed. Yang Ming was far from the man in her mind. At least, if Yang Ming persisted for a few more days, Sun Jia could barely fool herself by saying that she, her father, and third uncle were caught by Tianlong. Yang Ming was caught, but it couldn't be said that he wasn't capable enough. It could only be said that Tianlong was too cunning. However, he was caught in an instant, so the meaning was different. He felt guilty toward Yang Ming in his heart. Tianlong saw that Sun Hongjun didn't speak, but he didn't care. He snorted and looked at Yang Ming. Kid, aren't you very smart? You even know how to bribe your people around me and start with the people around me. However, aren't you still a prisoner? Yang Ming looked at Tianlong coldly. Don't think that you are invincible just because you have practiced the Golden Bell Shield. Why? Are you jealous? Tianlong was so happy today. He actually caught Yang Ming. In other words, he could explain to the behind-the-scenes boss and continue to get the strong support of the behind-the-scenes boss. With the support of the behind-the-scenes boss, everything was not a problem. Jealous? Why should I be jealous? Yang Ming said faintly, jealous of your broken Golden Bell Shield. You. Tianlong didn't expect that Yang Ming, who was very obedient just now, suddenly became eloquent. However, immediately, Tianlong thought that it must be that Yang Ming had no other way. Yang Ming broke the pot here and angered Tianlong to get psychological satisfaction. Thinking of this, Tianlong wasn't angry anymore. He looked at Yang Ming with a smile, then looked at Sun Hongjun and Sun Jie's family. He said, President Sun, are you confused by what you just heard? Sun Hongjun snorted slightly, which was a response to Tianlong. Indeed, he was confused. He didn't know what Tianlong and Yang Ming were talking about. What Golden Bell Shield? What is that? President Sun, you have found a good son-in-law. Tianlong said regretfully, but he is unlucky. He thinks he is smart and bribed the people around me, which is Wang Renping. I really didn't expect that Wang Renping, this kid, could actually be bribed. But it's useless. I have a secret on me. That is, I was once a disciple of Shaolin and practiced the Golden Bell Shield. Ha 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 ha, what do you think he can do to me? He can only blame himself for meeting me as an opponent. Speaking of this, Tianlong couldn't help but laugh arrogantly. Sun Jie's face changed slightly. It seemed that she really misunderstood Yang Ming. Yang Ming was not a coward, but he had been planning to rescue them. He was just a step away from success, but he didn't expect this Tianlong to practice the Golden Bell Shield. Although Sun Jie didn't know how powerful the Golden Bell Shield was after practicing it, she read in wuxia novels that those who practiced the Golden Bell Shield iron shirt were invulnerable. As a result, Yang Ming was obviously not an opponent. Thinking of this, Sun Jie felt a little guilty. When Yang Ming came in, I didn't pay attention to him. Would he be angry? At this moment, I still think about these things. Only Sun Jie would do it. After all, Sun Jie was still a girl. In a critical moment, she was thinking about whether her lover had misunderstood her, and not other things. Yeah, you can only blame yourself for meeting me as an opponent. Yang Ming took over Tianlong's words and said faintly. You still have a little self-awareness. And? What do you mean? Tianlong wasn't stupid. He immediately heard that Yang Ming's words weren't right. Why did it seem to be the opposite? However, just as he was inexplicably surprised, Yang Ming moved. He saw Yang Ming's body leaping into the air and kicking straight at Tianlong's head. Tianlong was shocked. He didn't expect Yang Ming to still want to attack him at this time. Before this, he had already tied Yang Ming's hands with a rubber band because the rubber band was tight and elastic. When it was tied to a person's hand, once it formed a dead knot, it couldn't be untied. It could only be cut with a sharp knife. Therefore, Tianlong wasn't afraid that the Sun family could untie the rubber band. So, when he came in, he didn't have any defense against Yang Ming. However, he didn't expect that Yang Ming could still use this flying kick when his hands were tied together. He was suddenly shocked. However, Tianlong was also a martial arts master. He had a secret technique, so he reacted immediately. He quickly channeled his martial arts. Although Yang Ming's kick didn't seem to be very strong, who knew if this kid had any special plans? Therefore, Tianlong couldn't let him succeed, so he channeled the Golden Bell Shield. He wasn't afraid of Yang Ming's kick. Yang Ming's kick landed on Tianlong's shoulder. He only felt like he was kicking a large stone slab. Not to mention that his foot hurt, but Tianlong was fine. However, Yang Ming obviously had a backup plan. This kick was just to confuse Tianlong. He saw that Yang Ming's lower left leg turned abruptly in the air and kicked toward Tianlong's right waist. This was Yang Ming's unique skill, the Yang-style flying kick. Although it wasn't pretty, and the side effects were relatively large, he had to admit that this trick allowed Yang Ming to repeatedly avoid danger. Sure enough, Tianlong never thought that Yang Ming would actually practice such a series of flying kicks, and the second kick was aimed at his right waist. Tianlong's face suddenly showed a horrified expression, but it was too late to dodge now. Tianlong groaned in pain. He covered his right waist and leaned against the door panel on the side in pain. He took deep breaths and couldn't speak. The sweat on his face rolled down. Obviously, he was in great pain. When Yang Ming saw that he had hit Tianlong's vital point, he suddenly showed a gratified smile. He didn't care how ugly his falling posture was. He squatted on the ground. Yang Ming was also nervous and sweating. This was the only chance. If Yang Ming didn't grasp it, it would be more difficult to control Tianlong in the future. But now it seemed that he had succeeded. The reason why Yang Ming's second kick was aimed at Tianlong's right waist was because it was Tianlong's Achilles heel. People who practiced the Golden Bell Shield, Iron Shirt, 13 Grand Guardians, and other external skills would always have one or two places that couldn't be practiced. This was the Achilles heel. When the Golden Bell Shield was practiced, the whole body was invulnerable, but the Achilles heel was an exception. If the Achilles heel was found, with a heavy poke, the martial arts would be abolished. In Liang Yuxing's novel, The Fate of the Dragon and Phoenix Hairpin, Yang Mu Lao's disciple was flirting with a girl on the streets of Chang'an. After Duan Kexi saw it, he hit the Weilu point of his Achilles heel and abolished his Golden Bell Shield. Yang Ming also knew this, so he pretended to surrender to Tianlong and waited for an opportunity to see where his Achilles heel was. Otherwise, with Yang Ming's identity as the King of Assassins' disciple, even if he couldn't beat Tianlong, this invulnerable monster, it was impossible for him to be captured by Tianlong. He couldn't attack, but he could protect himself. Yang Ming could totally escape. However, Yang Ming didn't run away, but obediently allowed himself to be captured. Yang Ming also wanted to use the time when he was captured to carefully find where Tianlong's Achilles heel was. If it were someone else, they might not find Tianlong's Achilles heel even if they searched blindly for a lifetime. But Yang Ming was different. Don't forget what Yang Ming relied on to start, that was his special ability. Yang Ming could carefully observe every inch of Tianlong's skin through his special ability. Because practicing the Golden Bell Shield would transform the muscles and muscles were different, so the muscles and muscles of the places that had been practiced and the places that hadn't been practiced were different. Although this work was troublesome, under Yang Ming's careful comparison, he finally found the right side of Tianlong's waist, which was very different from the rest of the muscles, so he concluded that this was Tianlong's Achilles heel. During the time when Yang Ming stayed in the trunk, he wasn't doing anything else, but he was using his special ability to observe Tianlong. When they arrived at the junkyard, Yang Ming also found Tianlong's Achilles heel. He was waiting for Tianlong to humiliate him, then he would give him a fatal blow. Of course, Yang Ming couldn't directly launch an attack on Tianlong's Achilles heel. In that case, Tianlong would definitely be on guard and desperately protect his Achilles heel. It would be more difficult for Yang Ming to hit Tianlong's Achilles heel. Because people who practice martial arts were more sensitive to their own Achilles heel, Yang Ming couldn't let Tianlong realize that he already knew where his Achilles heel was. Therefore, Yang Ming used the Yang Ming's flying kick. The first kick was aimed at Tianlong's face to confuse Tianlong's attention, and the second kick in the air was the key. It was aimed at Tianlong's Achilles heel. Chapter 1269. Yang Ming's Yang-style flying kick was cultivated by Yang Ming when he didn't study properly and fought with others all day long. There was no martial art or technique at all. It was purely cultivated by force. Of course, people in the martial arts world disdained this kind of kung fu. Although after the first kick in the air, there was still a short pause before the second kick, and it was equally lethal, the after-effects of this move were too great. People who used kung fu would cause their legs to be suspended in the air and lose control of their center of gravity. They would directly sit on the ground with their big buttocks. If this flying kick couldn't kill the enemy in one move, the consequences would be quite severe. Once you fell to the ground, you couldn't get up quickly. How could the opponent seize this opportunity and let it go? Therefore, no one would casually use such a dangerous move. However, Yang Ming was a guy who sought victory in danger. This Yang-style flying kick had been practiced to perfection. It wasn't the first time it was used at a critical moment. There had been countless successful experiences in the past, so Yang Ming was sure that one kick could finish Tianlong. Moreover, Yang Ming had found Tianlong's Achilles heel. Therefore, when Tianlong was unprepared, Yang Ming used a feint to distract Tianlong's attention with the first kick, and the second kick ruthlessly kicked his Achilles heel. The impact on Tianlong could be imagined. Anyone who practiced this kind of body-hardening technique had an Achilles heel. Once the Achilles heel was hit by gravity, the whole body's kung fu would be broken. Tianlong was naturally no exception. He stared at Yang Ming with a face full of horror, but Tianlong couldn't do anything. He knew that he was finished. He couldn't fight against Yang Ming anymore. He was completely defeated. In this short moment, Tianlong finally understood what extreme joy begets sorrow meant. He was still arrogant before, thinking that he had made a great contribution in front of the behind-the-scenes boss, but in the blink of an eye, his kung fu was broken by Yang Ming, and he was going to become a prisoner. Someone come. Tianlong was not stupid. He knew that he would definitely be attacked by Yang Ming here. Now that his martial arts were broken, how could he still be a match for Yang Ming? Therefore, the moment he regained consciousness, he hurriedly shouted for help. Zhang Jinghua had been waiting not far away. How could he dare to go far? Hearing Tianlong's shout, Zhang Jinghua immediately rushed in, but the situation in front of him made Zhang Jinghua somewhat at a loss. He saw Yang Ming sitting on the ground in an extremely unsightly posture, as if he had slipped and fallen on his butt. As for Tianlong's expression, it was even more strange. His face was pale, and his forehead was full of sweat. He held on to the door frame and gasped for breath, as if he was very sad. Just as he was wondering what to do, Yang Ming said, "Jinghua, go find a rope and tie him up." "Ah. Okay." After a short moment of shock, Zhang Jinghua understood the situation. Tianlong must have been beaten to a pulp by Yang Ming. Although Tianlong was standing at the moment, and Yang Ming was sitting, Tianlong's face was depressed and painful, but Yang Ming was very relaxed and happy. So in comparison, Zhang Jinghua knew that Yang Ming had won, but he was afraid that it could only be said to be a Pyrrhic victory. But no matter what, a victory was a victory. It did not matter whether it was a Pyrrhic victory, so Zhang Jinghua happily agreed and ran to find a rope. Tianlong was slightly stunned, and then he immediately understood. It turned out that Zhang Jinghua was also bought by Yang Ming. He couldn't help but say sadly, "Good method. Good method. It is really the new generation excels the old. I was actually tricked by you in the end." Yang Ming sighed and looked at Tianlong. He couldn't tell what kind of feeling was in his heart. Sympathy, pity, or ridicule. Tianlong knew that it was meaningless for him to resist now. Once his kung fu was broken, he wouldn't be Yang Ming's opponent. From Yang Ming's kung fu of flying needles, Yang Ming wasn't a mediocre person. Now, even Zhang Jingguo was bought by Yang Ming. Then, why would Tianlong resist? Thinking of this, Tianlong also accepted his fate. But, how do you know where my Achilles heel is? The fight between Yang Ming and Tianlong was too fast. In a flash, the people of the Sun family didn't understand what was going on. Tianlong was holding the door panel and dying, so they didn't know what method Yang Ming used to make Tianlong become like this. Now that they listened to Tianlong's inquiry, Sun Hongjun and Sun Jia understood that it was Yang Ming who broke Tianlong's Achilles heel. Sun Hongjun's face finally showed a smile that had never been seen in the past few days. Although Tianlong was still standing here, when he saw that even Zhang Jingguo listened to Yang Ming, he knew that Tianlong was completely finished this time. It was impossible for Tianlong to continue to be powerful. Sun Hongjun, who had been locked up for so many days, would regain his freedom. Sun Jia widened her eyes and pursed her lips. The emotions in her heart couldn't be calmed down for a long time. In the end, I still underestimated him. In just half a year, from when I first met him, that half-grown little boy who had just graduated from high school had actually become a truly indomitable man whom I could entrust my entire life to. The careful plan and the final beautiful desperate counterattack made Sun Jia look askance. Her heart was moved. Perhaps, it's time, isn't it? Yang Ming has finally grown up. He no longer needs me to give him advice. He already has his own ideas and plans. Yang Ming stood up and easily removed the cowhide that bound his hands and threw it aside. Tianlong was even more surprised. Of course, this was a piece of cake for Yang Ming, an assassin. If this cowhide could bind him, then he didn't need to be an assassin. He could just wait to be killed. If I say that you said it in your dream, would you believe it? Yang Ming replied casually. Tianlong's face turned black. Of course, he wouldn't believe it. He never had the problem of sleep-talking, let alone telling Yang Ming his dream talk. However, Yang Ming obviously didn't want to tell him. Although Tianlong had some regrets, it didn't matter whether Yang Ming told him the truth or not. Becoming a prisoner of Yang Ming was already an inevitable fact. Even if he figured out the truth of the matter, it would be useless. There was no meaning. Therefore, Tianlong no longer dug into the root of the problem. This would only humiliate himself. Who knew what Yang Ming would think of to deal with him, so Tianlong closed his mouth. Yang Ming saw that Tianlong didn't say anything, so he didn't bother with him. He turned around and carefully looked at the people in the room, Sun Hongjun, Sun Jia, and Sun San. Yang Ming didn't pay much attention to Sun San's previous appearance, but Sun Hongjun was obviously a lot older. His whole person was lethargic. Although he saw that Tianlong was knocked down by him at the moment, he only showed a smile. His fatigue couldn't be hidden. Sun Jia, on the other hand, was obviously a lot thinner. Her face was not as round as before, and she had become a bony beauty. Yang Ming's gaze slid down and fell on Sun Jia's chest. Yang Ming wanted to see if this chest had become thinner. If it became thinner, it wouldn't be fun. This was Yang Ming's favorite. Sun Jia was very happy when she saw Yang Ming looking at her face with concern, but it didn't take long for Yang Ming's gaze to change direction. How could Sun Jia not know what this kid was looking at? The good impression of Yang Ming in her heart suddenly fell to the bottom. She gritted her teeth and said hatefully, "It is easy to change mountains and rivers, but it is hard to change one's nature." He is still so perverted. Yang Ming naturally knew Sun Jia's thoughts. He took out an MP4 from his pocket like a magic trick. It was the same one that Sun Jia had when he first met her. After Yang Ming took it for himself, he downloaded a few songs from it and carried it with him. No matter if he went out to perform a mission or other things, he would listen to it when he was free. When Sun Jia saw the MP4 in Yang Ming's hand, she was suddenly dumbfounded. Thinking of the first time she saw Yang Ming, Sun Jia felt her face blush. Yang Ming must be saying, "Why am I perverted? Didn't I learn it from you?" Here, the two little lovers were exchanging glances, but Tianlong had been tied up by Zhang Jinghua. Tianlong also accepted his fate. Just like Yang Ming, he didn't resist at all and let Zhang Jinghua tie him up like a big dumpling. "Uncle Sun, little Jia, you are all tired. Don't stay in this room. Let's find a better room to rest." After that, Yang Ming turned to Zhang Jinghua and said, "Jinghua, go and clean up the best room here." "Ugh. Mr. Yang, the best room here is Brother Long." "Ah no, Tian Long's room, but now he is under house arrest," Zhang Jinghua said with difficulty. "Damn, then why don't you let him out?" Yang Ming was a little dumbfounded after hearing it. The father put his son under house arrest. Yang Ming really heard it for the first time. Why is it like the emperor in the past imprisoning the prince? Now that Tian Long was caught, Tian Donghua naturally should be let out. If Zhang Jinghua didn't remind Yang Ming would really forget about this. It wasn't that Yang Ming valued sex over friendship, but when Tian Long brought him over, he locked him in the room with the Sun family. Zhang Jinghua quickly followed Yang Ming's instructions. Yang Ming, Sun Jia, Sun Hongjun, and Sun San went out of the room. Yang Ming locked the door of the room and said to Tian Long inside, "You should reflect on yourself." Sun Jia really wanted to rush into Yang Ming's arms, but because Sun Hongjun was also there, Sun Jia was such a bold person. She didn't have the habit of being conspicuous in front of her father, so she could only give up. She didn't want Yang Ming to be too proud. Although she had now made the final decision, at least she had to put on airs. How would Sun Hongjun know the principles between children? He didn't speak in the room just now because he was so excited that he forgot to speak. This time, he regained his calmness after leaving the room. "Yang Ming, you really didn't let Uncle down. This time, it's all thanks to you. Otherwise, we wouldn't know how long we would be locked up by Tian Long." "Don't say that. This is what I should do, ugh." Why did Yang Ming feel that he was a little bit like a primary school student who didn't pocket the money he picked up in front of his elders? Yeah, we're all a family. Don't be so formal." Sun Hongjun was a smart person. He naturally knew that Yang Ming had a few girlfriends in Songjiang. His daughter could only be ranked behind, but it couldn't be helped. Yang Ming was now stronger than him. Sun Hongjun naturally pretended not to know and got close to Yang Ming. Sun Hongjun walked in front, and Yang Ming and Sun Jia walked behind. Sun Hongjun didn't have eyes behind his back, so Sun Jia was more relaxed. The two people hooked their fingers, scratched their palms, and had a lot of fun. "Is this a test for me?" Yang Ming whispered in Sun Jia's ear. The two people were close. Sun Jia didn't know if Yang Ming did it deliberately or not. Anyway, it made Sun Jia's ear itch, and she had an unnatural physiological reaction. Sun Jia rolled her eyes at Yang Ming. She was a little annoyed by his behavior, but she still nodded. "When we go back this time, let's register, hey." Yang Ming was suddenly stunned. He was shocked by Sun Jia's words. Seeing Yang Ming's appearance, Sun Jia smiled playfully. "I'm just lying to you. Look at how scared you are." Having said that, Sun Jia's heart still sank for no reason. It seems that I can't replace Chen Mingyan's position in Yang Ming's heart. Even if there is no Chen Mengyan, I'm afraid that Xiao Qing is before me. Thinking of this, Sun Jia was a little discouraged. She was unwilling in her heart. I am always competitive in everything. How can I be at a disadvantage in terms of feelings? If it is really Xiao Qing who is competing with me, then Sun Jia may let it go, but the other party is a little girl. How can Sun Jia be balanced? How can I lose to Chen Mengyan? Yang Ming breathed a sigh of relief, but his mood was a little heavy. Indeed, getting married and having children was a problem that had to be considered carefully. I don't know how Li Chang and General Kars are doing. Yang Ming's idea was actually very simple. He bought a private island and moved his whole family there. It was his own territory. Of course, he had the final say. The island had been bought, and his goal had been mostly completed. Thinking of this, Yang Ming was relieved. He said to Sun Jia, "Don't worry. I will definitely give you what you deserve." She didn't know what Yang Ming meant. Sun Jia was surprised, but it was not appropriate to ask. She temporarily put it in her heart as a doubt. Not long after, Yang Ming saw Tian Donghua running over from that side. As he ran, he shouted like a big fool, "Bro, are you here? Damn, great. I knew it was you. You will definitely come to save me. You won't leave me alone." Yang Ming suddenly sweated. He thought, if it weren't for Zhang Jingguo's reminder, would have really forgotten about you, but I couldn't show anything on my face. Sun Jia knew Yang Ming very well. She glanced at Yang Ming, but she didn't say anything. Donghua. Yang Ming suddenly found that he didn't know how to face Tian Donghua. His father had just been caught by Yang Ming, but Tian Donghua was very grateful to Yang Ming. What the fuck is going on? Perhaps Tian Donghua still didn't know that Tian Long was caught. Zhang Jinghua just went to release him. Maybe it was just to tell him that Yang Ming came to save him. In fact, it was indeed like this. At that time, Tian Donghua was watching TV in the room. He also thought it through. His father didn't listen to his advice and was stubborn. He didn't need to spoil himself. A hunger strike was the behavior of a psychopath. Therefore, Tian Donghua decided to do what he should do. It was better to live more comfortably. As he was watching a talent show, the sound of a key opening the door suddenly came from outside the door. Tian Donghua frowned. He thought that it was his father who came to persuade him to help him deal with Yang Ming. Suddenly, there was a burst of disgust in his heart. To be honest, Tian Donghua didn't want to say anything to Tian Long now because he already knew that Tian Long was stubborn now. He simply wouldn't listen to his advice, so he was too lazy to say anything to Tian Long. So he didn't even look at it. When Zhang Jinghua entered the room, he found that this young master was actually watching TV leisurely. He was stunned, but he still reported, "Master Tian, Mr. Yang is here." "Mr. Yang? What Mr. Yang?" Tian Donghua heard that it wasn't his father's voice. When he looked back, he saw that it was Zhang Jinghua. When he heard him say Mr. Yang, he was stunned and didn't react. "Yang Ming, Mr. Yang. He is here to save you," Zhang Jinghua quickly explained. "Ah. Bro is here." Tian Donghua heard Yang Ming's name and suddenly jumped up. There was the previous scene. At this time, when the two people met, Tian Donghua was excited, but Yang Ming was helpless. Taking advantage of this time, Zhang Jinghua had already cleaned up Tian Donghua's original room. Tian Donghua didn't mess up the room, so Zhang Jinghua only needed to change a set of bedding and tidy up the bathroom. Of course, he didn't need to clean it himself. He sent his men to do it. Zhang Jinghua's men were fence-sitters. When they saw that the boss had betrayed and captured Tian Long, they had no choice but to follow Zhang Jinghua directly. What's more, it seemed that Zhang Jinghua and Tian Donghua were on the same side. They were justifiable morally. Little Jia, uncle's son, you go and rest first. I have something to talk to Donghua alone. Although Yang Ming was helpless, there were some things that he had to let Tian Donghua know. Tian Donghua could turn against Tian Long for Yang Ming. If he wanted to do something to Tian Long, he naturally had to ask for the opinion of this good brother. Okay. Sun Jia knew that Yang Ming and Tian Donghua were classmates. She understood the relationship between them, so she nodded and didn't say much. She took her father to the front room to rest and left the space for Yang Ming and Tian Donghua. Tian Donghua was not a fool. When he saw Yang Ming send away the others, he vaguely guessed what Yang Ming was going to say. It must be about his father, Tian Long. Since Zhang Jinghua, who detained him, had become Yang Ming's man, then it was not difficult for Tian Donghua to guess that Yang Ming must have begun to go against his father. Although he was somewhat uncomfortable in his heart, he had to make a choice at this time. Chapter 1270. Tian Donghua had already thought that Yang Ming must have stood on the opposite side of his father. The two people had become enemies, so Tian Donghua had to choose a side. It was impossible to help Tian Long deal with Yang Ming. If Tian Donghua had this intention, he would not be put under house arrest here. However, Tian Donghua still couldn't help Yang Ming deal with his father. After all, that person was his father, the person who gave birth to him and raised him, so Tian Donghua couldn't be ruthless. However, recalling his father's actions, Tian Donghua also knew that his father was really hopeless. If Yang Ming wanted to deal with him, he would never stop it. Even if his father didn't have Yang Ming to deal with him, he would definitely not have a good end if he continued like this. So Tian Donghua gritted his teeth and said to Yang Ming, "About my father?" Yang Ming nodded. He had to talk to Tian Donghua about this. After all, Tian Donghua stood on his side when he had a conflict with Tian Long. He even didn't hesitate to fall out with his father. But how to say it? The other party was Tian Donghua's father after all. Since Tian Donghua really regarded himself as a friend and a good brother, Yang Ming couldn't ignore him. On the issue of how to deal with Tian Long, Yang Ming still decided to discuss with Tian Donghua. Well, Tian Donghua smiled bitterly. Since my father did such a thing, I don't want to speak for him. Bro, you have to be careful. Tian Donghua originally thought that it was impossible for Yang Ming to compete with his father, but now, Tian Donghua knew that he had underestimated Yang Ming. Since Yang Ming could bribe Zhang Jinghua to release him and the Sun family, then Yang Ming could also bribe other people around his father. He still had a certain assurance to deal with Tian Long. This was a painful choice, but Tian Donghua had to make a choice, so he deliberated and finally chose not to help either side. First, it was his father on the other side, and this was his brother on the other side. Tian Donghua had no way to choose. Second, Tian Donghua really couldn't help much. But the meaning of his words was to express his position to Yang Ming. That was, "You can deal with my father. I don't care about this side." It was conceivable how painful Tian Donghua was at the moment. Yang Ming was slightly stunned. He didn't understand the specific meaning of Tian Donghua's words at first, but after thinking about it, he understood. Tian Donghua must have misunderstood in that room. Ah! Tian Donghua was suddenly stunned, but after a short moment of astonishment, Tian Donghua woke up. "You mean, my father has already?" Yang Ming nodded. "You are my good brother, so I really don't have any suitable way to deal with this matter. It's really a headache." Tian Donghua was also silent. He didn't expect Yang Ming to really catch his father. This time, Tian Donghua was really in a dilemma. His original idea was that although Yang Ming was powerful, his father was not weak. It was best that the two people could talk to each other. This was the best ending. But now, since Yang Ming caught Tianlong, with the relationship between Yang Ming and the Sun family, how could his father have an easy time? In fact, Yang Ming could have done it without discussing with him, but Yang Ming still told him, which meant that Yang Ming regarded him as a brother. But the more it was like this, the more guilty Tian Donghua was, and the more he couldn't interfere with Yang Ming. It was obvious that his father was wrong, and he deserved to be caught by Yang Ming. How could Tian Donghua cover up for his father? That would be too disloyal. What's more, Tian Donghua also understood Sun Hongjuan's character. Sun Hongjun was also a person with a reputation in society. This time, he was tricked by Tianlong and was under house arrest for such a long time. His heart must have been filled with anger. Moreover, Tianlong betrayed him first. Once Sun Hongjun caught Tianlong, how could he let Tianlong go? Most likely, this time, Tianlong was doomed. Sun Hongjun would definitely not let him off easily. Thinking of this, Tian Donghua was a little sad, but he also knew that if he forced Yang Ming to do something, Yang Ming would do his best to do it, but the key was whether the Sun family would agree. Once he asked Yang Ming to leave a way out for his father, Yang Ming would definitely do his best. But on the other hand, wasn't that creating a conflict between Yang Ming and the Sun family? So after weighing it again and again, Tian Donghua finally said, "Bro, you can deal with it however you want. Don't care about my feelings. My father's end today is also his own fault. I won't speak for him and make it difficult for you." Yang Ming didn't expect Tian Donghua to say these words. Yang Ming originally thought that Tian Donghua would beg him to not pursue Tianlong's responsibility for his face, but that was obviously impossible. Even if he didn't pursue Tianlong's responsibility, it was impossible to let him continue to work under the Sun family. But Yang Ming never thought that Tian Donghua would let him make the decision. He wouldn't interfere. How much effort did he have to make this decision? However, Tian Donghua's words made the pressure in Yang Ming's heart lessen a lot. Although Yang Ming also wanted to kill Tianlong, because of his relationship with Tian Donghua, Yang Ming couldn't do so. But even if he didn't kill him, he definitely wouldn't let him go easily. However, since Tian Donghua said so, Yang Ming had a plan in his heart. Thinking of this, Yang Ming relaxed a lot in an instant. He smiled at Tian Donghua and said, "Let's go. Go in with me and talk to your father." Although Tian Donghua was also very worried about his father's situation, he and Tianlong quarreled and had different opinions. After all, they were father and son. But Tian Donghua still hesitated at the moment. He didn't know how to face his father. In the blink of an eye, his father became a prisoner. Tian Donghua was really afraid that he couldn't help it and would ask Yang Ming to do something, making it difficult for him. So, Tian Donghua flinched. He wasn't a person who couldn't distinguish right from wrong. Naturally, he knew that there was nothing strange about his father's current situation, so Tian Donghua didn't want to see Tianlong at this moment. Forget it. Tian Donghua sighed heavily and said somewhat helplessly. "What's wrong?" Yang Ming had some thoughts. At this time, Tian Donghua should want to see Tianlong, right? Nothing. I don't know how to face it. The relationship between the three of us. Tian Donghua shook his head. I'm afraid that I can't help but plead for him. Tian Donghua was also a bachelor. In front of Yang Ming, he didn't want to hide anything, so he said his thoughts directly. Yang Ming didn't expect that Tian Donghua didn't want to see Tianlong because of this. He was suddenly dumbfounded and said, "Let's go together. Just say what you want to say." Tian Donghua looked up incredulously. He wanted to see Yang Ming's expression, but he found that Yang Ming had already taken the lead. Tian Donghua lowered his head again and carefully pondered what Yang Ming said. Seeing that Yang Ming had gone far away, Tian Donghua gritted his teeth and quickly followed. Zhang Jinghua settled the people of the Sun family and ran over to see if anything happened to Yang Ming. Until now, Zhang Jinghua's heart was still fluctuating. He thought, Mr. Yang is really powerful. I was really scared when I saw him being caught, but fortunately, it was a strategy to lure the enemy. Now, it seems that Tianlong still lost. Open the door. Yang Ming glanced at Zhang Jinghua and ordered him. Yes. Zhang Jinghua hurriedly opened the door in front of Yang Ming and said, Mr. Yang. Young Master Tian, please. Zhang Jinghua could see that Yang Ming was actually in cahoots with Tian Donghua. This was really messy. The one locked inside was young Master Tian's father. However, these things were not what Zhang Jinghua could speculate. It was better for him to know less about the things at that level. The more he knew about the things at the top, the worse it would be for Zhang Jinghua. Tianlong heard the sound of the door opening and raised his head slightly. He didn't expect that he lost, and he lost to Yang Ming. He was unwilling, but he couldn't do anything. Seeing Yang Ming come in, Tianlong said coldly, What are you doing here? If you want to kill me, just do whatever you want. I have nothing to say to you. He, Tianlong, you have nothing to say to me. However, before you die, don't you have anyone you want to see? Although Yang Ming's voice was calm, it was full of coldness, which made Tianlong's heart very uncomfortable. Tianlong was subconsciously stunned. Am I going to die? Before I die, I naturally want to see my two sons. However, would Yang Ming agree to this kind of request? Tian Donghua, who was about to step in, heard Yang Ming's words. His footsteps suddenly stopped, and his facial expression froze. Although Tian Donghua was prepared, Yang Ming in the Sun family would definitely not let go of his father. In the end, it was possible for him to apologize with death. However, when he really heard Yang Ming say this, Tian Donghua's heart was in a mess again. He didn't know how to face it. Yang Ming also noticed the strangeness behind him. He looked back at Tian Donghua and said, Donghua, you come in. There are some things that you have to face in the end. Tian Donghua's face was gloomy. He nodded and walked in. Looking at Tianlong, who was tied up on the ground, he was very upset. Yesterday, his father, who was still high up and strategizing, became a prisoner today. However, who could he blame for this? Dad. Tian Donghua carefully glanced at his father on the ground. He really had a lot of words, but he didn't know what to say when he reached his mouth. Yes, he really didn't know what to say. He really didn't know. Donghua, you don't have to be sad. When Tianlong saw that it was his son, the expression on his face also eased. Since ancient times, there has been a saying that the winner is the king, and the loser is a thief. Your father, I, lost. I didn't expect that in the end. I actually couldn't win against this junior. I'm really ashamed. Dad, why are you still so stubborn? Tian Donghua listened to Tianlong's words and was a little angry. Don't you realize that you were wrong from the beginning? Wrong? Tianlong smiled self-deprecatingly. There has never been an absolute right or wrong in this world. The so-called right or wrong is the starting point of one's own position. It is selfish. Aren't you selfish? Yang Ming couldn't help but interject with a sneer at this time. Yes, I am selfish. Every man for himself and the devil takes the hindmost. Tianlong didn't deny it. Instead, he admitted it. It's true that I am selfish, but I don't think that what I do is wrong. I am planning for Tian Donghua's future. What is wrong with me? I am not wrong. Dad, you still don't understand. My future is fought for by myself. It is not given to me by you. Tian Donghua sighed. I don't need you to do this, don't need. Let me tell you. Once Sun Hongjun and I enter the coffin, what will your position in the Sun family be? Do you know it yourself? Can they still trust you like they trust me? What will you do then? Tian Long said coldly. Tian Long, in fact, you are wrong. Yang Ming listened to Tian Long's words and finally knew why he was determined to betray Sun Hongjun. It turned out that he was planning for the future. Since ancient times, there was a saying that a new emperor would have his own ministers. Tian Long was afraid that after Sun Jia and Sun Jiwei were in power, they would squeeze Tian Donghua, so he made the first move. I am wrong. How am I wrong? Tian Long was not angry this time but laughed. Tian Donghua said that he was wrong, and this Yang Ming actually joined in. I really don't care about the Sun family's business. The business I have in Africa is more than 100 times, including Sun Jia. She will go with me in the future. Then, who will take care of the Sun family's business in Donghai? Yang Ming snorted coldly. Use your pig brain to think about it. Sun Jiwei can't be supported at all. Who else can I trust except for Zhang Bin? Only your son, Tian Donghua, who is 100 times smarter than you, is left. I will hand over the business in Songjiang to Zhang Bin. You can think about who to hand over the business in Donghai. When Yang Ming said this, not only Tian Long but also Tian Donghua was stunned. Tian Donghua never thought that Yang Ming would say this, and he never thought that Yang Ming would hand over the business to him. What kind of trust is this? Tian Donghua suddenly felt sour. He didn't expect that his position in Yang Ming's mind was so important. Yang Ming could actually entrust such an important thing to him. Ha! You can say whatever you want now. After a short moment of astonishment, Tian Long came back to his senses and laughed loudly. It's no use even if you're exaggerating now. Who doesn't know how to speak in hindsight? If you have this idea, why didn't you say it before? Besides, what is the use of your promise? Can Sun Hongjun still listen to you? Tian Donghua pursed his lips at the moment and somewhat disagreed. Because he knew that Yang Ming always kept his word. Yang Ming would not make a promise without thinking. Sure enough, Tian Donghua was right. Yang Ming spoke. First, Tian Long, I can tell you very clearly that what I said is not a hindsight. Yang Ming looked at Tian Long and said word by word, you are you. Tian Donghua is Tian Donghua. You father and son are not the same. I will not vent my anger on him because of your matter, so what I said is still effective. Before I go out, I will hand over all the affairs in Donghai to Donghua. Tian Long did not expect Yang Ming to say this. In this case, Yang Ming could still make this promise. In Tian Long's opinion, it was somewhat inconceivable, but he did not speak. Instead, he listened to Yang Ming continue to speak and see what else he could say. Tian Donghua could no longer control his emotions. His eyes were sour, and he said, Bro. I don't want anything. Yang Ming waved his hand and motioned for Tian Donghua to stop talking and just listen to him. Second, regarding the issue of whether Uncle's son agrees or not, I can tell you for sure that if he knows that I now have 10 times or 100 times his current assets, he will not care about this. 10 times or 100 times. Tian Long's eyes widened. He could not believe that Yang Ming actually had so much money. In fact, the Sun family's assets were hundreds of millions. Yang Ming had 10 times or 100 times more. How much money was that? Of course, 10 times or 100 times is just a metaphor. Yang Ming said faintly. Tianlong breathed a sigh of relief and thought, I knew it. It can't be so much, but this kid is too good at bragging. However, as soon as this thought fell, Yang Ming spoke again. It is at least a few thousand times. Yang Ming added. Ha! Tianlong was really dumbfounded this time. He didn't know if Yang Ming was bragging or if Yang Ming had really reached that height. To be honest, Tianlong, you are really too anxious. Yang Ming sighed. However, although your idea and my idea are the same in the end, which is to let Donghua take care of the business here, since things have already happened, then don't blame me for being impolite. After Tianlong listened to Yang Ming's words, he seemed to finally understand. Perhaps Yang Ming had really reached a height that he could not reach. It was precisely because of this that Yang Ming could bribe the people around him and succeed. There was still a gap between him and Yang Ming. If you can really fulfill your promise, then I can die with no regrets. Tianlong breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't expect that Yang Ming's idea was actually like this. Although he didn't know whether it was true or not, since Yang Ming said it, then it was possible. It was also a comfort before he died. I will definitely keep my words. Of course, it is only for friends. Yang Ming glanced at Tian Donghua and said, I don't have many friends. In the school, the only ones who can be considered as close friends are Zhang Bin and Tian Donghua, so I will definitely keep my promise to him. Tianlong nodded and said, well, if this is the case, I thank you. You father and son, if you have anything to say it as soon as possible. I will go out first and leave you some private space. After Yang Ming finished speaking, he turned and left the room without waiting for Tianlong and Tian Donghua to answer. Chapter 1271. This ending was something that Tianlong and Tian Donghua did not expect. Yang Ming's tolerance moved Tian Donghua. He was very grateful to Yang Ming for being able to see him and his father as two different kinds of people instead of one group. Of course, this was also the case, but in this case, it was difficult for someone to keep a clear mind. After all, it was an indisputable fact that he and Tianlong were father and son. Almost everyone would classify them as one group, so Yang Ming's attitude at this time was commendable. Dad. After Yang Ming left, Tian Donghua hesitated for a long time and finally opened his mouth. Although his heart was sad, he also guessed that Yang Ming and the Sun family would never let go of his father, but he couldn't plead with Yang Ming. Donghua, don't be sad. If Yang Ming can keep his promise and fulfill what he said, then I will die without regrets. You are better than your father. At the critical moment, you can keep a clear mind and not stand on the wrong side. This is already very amazing. If you were really in cahoots with me, maybe you would be like me now and become a prisoner. Tianlong was open-minded at the moment. He was also a person who was over 50 years old. He didn't have many pursuits in this life. In his heart, he just wanted his son to have a good life in the future. Now, Yang Ming had made a promise, so it was basically the same as Tianlong's idea. Although the time might be delayed, the result was the same. Thinking of this, Tianlong also calmed down. It seemed that Tian Donghua had been sticking to his own position. It was really a wise choice. At least after Tian Donghua fell, he would not be affected. Yang Ming could still treat him as a brother. This was not easy. Dad. I just know what is right and what is wrong. Tian Donghua sighed. His father's words made him feel very uncomfortable, but there was no way. So, I can't and won't plead with Yang Ming. I know. Tianlong waved his hand indifferently at the moment. Since he was reduced to a prisoner, then he accepted his fate. Even if you want to plead, I will stop you. Why? Tian Donghua was stunned and looked at his father inexplicably. He, if you plead for me, what will Yang Ming think? He will definitely think that you are still on my side. Then, can he still entrust you with important tasks in the future? Tian Long said, so, for your future, I won't let you do this. Tian Donghua listened to his father's words and was somewhat speechless, but he did not say it because Tian Long would not believe it. Since his father was open-minded, he didn't have to beg Yang Ming. Tian Donghua breathed a sigh of relief, but he was a little sad because he couldn't save his father. Not a friend, but a brother, said Tian Donghua. Yeah. Tian Long smiled. It was a kind of gratified smile. Perhaps this was the happiest moment before his death. Tian Donghua did not expect that his father could suddenly repent. It was said that a person's words were good when he was about to die. It seemed that this sentence was right. No matter how Tian Donghua advised him before, he insisted on his own point of view. He thought that he was always right and refused to repent. But now, Tian Donghua did not have to say anything. Tian Donghua was very gratified that Tian Donghua could figure out these reasons. It was also Yang Ming's attitude that made Tian Long finally realize his mistake in his heart. He always looked at Yang Ming too simply, but he did not expect that Yang Ming had transcended the level of personal grievances. This made Tian Long somewhat ashamed. Dad, although you finally repent, but, Tian Donghua was somewhat incoherent. No matter what, the other party was always his father. It was really difficult for him to sit back and do nothing. Tian Long naturally knew what Tian Donghua wanted to say. He waved his hand and smiled. Don't say it. Okay, there is nothing. You can go out too. Don't tell Tian Donghua about my matter. That kid has a one-track mind. I am afraid that he can't accept it. Tian Donghua nodded silently. He stood up and was about to go out, but the door behind him was pushed open again. The person who came in was Yang Ming. Finish talking. Yang Ming smiled and looked at Tian Donghua. He also saw that Tian Donghua's face was not very good, it was somewhat pale and weak. Tian Donghua nodded. Okay, I will go out. Donghua, don't you have anything to say to me? Yang Ming grabbed Tian Donghua's arm and looked straight at him. What can I say? Tian Donghua was slightly stunned, then he smiled bitterly. Although I want to say something in my heart, I can't say it. What I want to say is, bro, you should deal with it as you should. Don't take my feelings into consideration just because he is my father. This matter will not affect the feelings between us. From the moment I advised my father and he didn't listen, I knew that I had to stand on the opposite side of him. I have to make my choice, so I have no choice. Yang Ming looked at Tian Donghua very appreciatively. Good, kid. It is not easy to distinguish between gratitude and resentment. Tian Donghua was somewhat helpless. He didn't know what to say, so he waved his hand. I will go out first, don't you want to hear my final decision? Yang Ming glanced at Tian Donghua and asked. I don't want to listen. Tian Donghua shook his head. Although I know that my father asked for it, I don't want to see him. Tian Donghua didn't continue his words, but he believed that Yang Ming would definitely understand. Tian Donghua said that he didn't want to see him die. Let's listen. Yang Ming smiled. Seeing Yang Ming insist, Tian Donghua couldn't help it. Although he didn't know what Yang Ming meant, he probably wanted him to have the right to know. Otherwise, he might regret it in the future. Tian Long, although you deserve it, it is not too much to let you die 10,000 times. However, do you know why I finally decided to let you live? Yang Ming looked at Tian Long and asked word by word. Tianlong was stunned. Even Tian Donghua on the side showed a surprised expression. They didn't expect that Yang Ming would actually let Tianlong live. Even Tianlong himself thought that he would die, but at this moment, there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Tianlong even had an idea. Is Yang Ming playing with me? However, looking at Yang Ming's expression, it didn't seem like it. Bro, you want to let my father go? Tian Donghua also couldn't believe it. He looked at Yang Ming suspiciously and asked. Yang Ming nodded slightly. Killing is not the way to solve the problem. Bro, you can't be because of me. Tian Donghua's voice suddenly choked, and he couldn't even speak. He knew that Yang Ming must have considered his friendship with him, so he made this final choice. This feeling of escaping from death made Tianlong's heart pleasantly surprised. Although he already had the belief that he would die, who was willing to die? As the saying goes, a good death is better than a bad life. Previously, Tianlong knew that he was definitely going to die, so he had no other thoughts. But now it was different. Now that there was hope for survival, Tianlong's mind was naturally active again. The desire to survive was something that everyone had. Because I raised a good son. After Tianlong figured it out, he was not so hostile to Yang Ming, so he was not disgusted with Yang Ming's question. After listening to Yang Ming's question, he answered. Yes, I let you go. Tian Donghua is a factor. Yang Ming nodded faintly. Although Donghua also said that he didn't need to care about his feelings, in fact, Yang Ming couldn't ignore Tian Donghua's feelings. After all, the relationship between the two people was there. Based on Tian Donghua's attitude of breaking with his father, Yang Ming couldn't not be merciful. Yang Ming continued, however, this is only one aspect. The most important thing is your attitude just now. You can repent before you die. This shows that you are not incurable. If you don't repent until you die, then even with this relationship with Donghua, I won't let you go easily. Yang Ming continued, however, this is only one aspect. The most important is your attitude just now. After Tianlong listened to Yang Ming's words, he suddenly broke into a cold sweat. Yes, he did repent, but this was also based on the premise before he died. Because Tianlong knew that his life was short, he really calmed down and considered whether what he did was right or wrong. Only in this mood, Tianlong could face himself and look at the problem from a fair and just perspective. He finally understood that everything he did was wrong. Who didn't want to live? Tianlong was really scared. If he didn't have the belief that he would die, he wouldn't think of this. At this moment, even if Yang Ming cared about Tian Donghua's feelings, it was impossible to spare him. Thinking of this, Tianlong still said, Yang. Mr. Yang, thank you for not killing me. Although it was a bit pretentious, the fact was that Yang Ming did let him go. However, you don't have to stay here. I can't guarantee that the people of the Sun family won't have any resentment when they see you. Yang Ming looked at Tianlong and warned faintly. I understand. I will leave tomorrow. I will leave Donghai. Tianlong gritted his teeth. Although he was leaving his hometown, and it might be difficult to see his son in the future, Tianlong still had to make this choice. Go to my private territory in Africa, but I won't arrange any position for you. Just treat it as retirement. Donghua can often visit you in the future. Yang Ming had already arranged a reasonable place for Tianlong. Now it seemed that Country X in Africa was the best place for Tianlong. On the one hand, the Sun family definitely couldn't continue to use him. Instead of letting him be an eyesore here, it was better to move him further away. Over there, it was completely Yang Ming's private territory. He wasn't afraid that Tianlong would play any tricks, not to mention that he wouldn't arrange any position for Tianlong. Tianlong himself could understand that after he went there, he would just eat, drink, and play. Of course, Yang Ming wouldn't treat him badly. Over there, he wanted to build a world-class resort for Tianlong to enjoy, but he wouldn't give him any power. Tianlong naturally understood this. Yang Ming let him retire, but this was already the best result. He thought that the death penalty was inevitable, but he couldn't escape punishment. Yang Ming would send him to do manual labor. So, after Yang Ming said the first half of the sentence, Tianlong was nervous for a while. After listening to the second half of the sentence, he felt that joy came from the sky. He was already old. Since Yang Ming intended to let Tian Donghua take over the Sun family's business in Donghai, then he really had nothing to do. It was fine to retire early. I can't ask for more, said Tianlong quickly. Even Tian Donghua was ecstatic because Yang Ming's treatment of Tianlong was simply too lenient. Not only did he not do anything to him, but he also let him go abroad for a vacation. Bro, thank you. Tian Donghua took a deep breath and looked at Yang Ming gratefully, but he didn't say those mushy words because everything was said without words. Tian Donghua knew that Yang Ming took care of his face, so he made such a decision. What are you thanking for? Yang Ming waved his hand. Leave tomorrow. I will arrange everything for you. Tianlong nodded in silence. Donghua, stay here with your father tonight. I will let Zhang Jinghua prepare some wine and dishes. You can have a good chat. Yang Ming patted Tian Donghua's shoulder and said. Tian Donghua nodded and said, I understand, bro. You can rest assured. Yang Ming went out of the room again, leaving space for the father and son of the Tian family. He walked to Sun Hongjuan's room. Yang Ming did not discuss with Sun Hongjun about how to deal with Tianlong, so he still had to tell him at this time. After all, Sun Hongjun was Yang Ming's elder. When Yang Ming pushed the door in, he heard Sun Hongjuan's hearty laughter. Looking at Sun Hongjuan's boastful appearance, Yang Ming knew that his mood had completely recovered and walked out of the previous haze. Uncle Sun, what made you so happy? Yang Ming smiled and walked into the room as he spoke. Yang Ming, you are here. Sun Hongjun stood up enthusiastically and walked over to Yang Ming. As he walked, he said, this time, it is thanks to you. Otherwise, we don't know how long we would be locked up. Sun Hongjuan's attitude made Yang Ming somewhat flattered. Although Yang Ming saved him this time, in any case, Sun Hongjun was Yang Ming's elder. This was an unchangeable fact, so Sun Hongjun personally thanked him. This was a kind of affirmation to Yang Ming. Uncle Sun, this is what I should do. Yang Ming quickly smiled and said, it is reasonable for me to do my best. As Yang Ming said this, he couldn't help but look at Sun Jia. Seeing that she was also looking at him with a smile, Yang Ming winked at her, but Sun Jia rolled her eyes. Sun Jia thought that I was showing off to her, right? However, Yang Ming didn't care what she thought. After this time, he believed that Sun Jia would no longer have an ambiguous attitude toward him. Yeah, that's right. We are all a family. Sun Hongjun laughed. After laughing, he remembered Tianlong's matter, so he asked, right, Yang Ming, how do you want to deal with Tianlong's matter? Uncle Sun, this is also what I want to talk to you about. Yang Ming made an inviting gesture. Let's go inside and talk. Sun Hongjun nodded. He also knew that Yang Ming had something important to say to him, so he went into the office inside the suite with Yang Ming. This was prepared by Tianlong for himself. He didn't expect it to become a place for Yang Ming and Sun Hongjun to talk about things. Sun Jia was a little unhappy. She snorted coldly. Apparently, Because Yang Ming didn't look for her and went directly to her father to talk about things, she was somewhat dissatisfied. However, this wasn't the time for romance. Sun Jia could only let her be angry. Yang Ming just pretended not to see it. After entering the office with Sun Hongjun and closing the door, Yang Ming said, "Uncle Sun, please sit." "Yang Ming, you are looking for me to talk about Tianlong's matter, right?" Sun Hongjun was very smart. He immediately guessed Yang Ming's purpose. Yang Ming nodded and sighed slightly. Then he said, "Uncle Sun, you guessed right. I am looking for you because of Tianlong's matter." Sun Hongjun sat on the sofa without any surprise and said, "So, what do you want to do with him?" "Let him go." Yang Ming didn't beat around the bush, but said directly, "Let him go." Sun Hongjun was stunned. He didn't expect Yang Ming to make such a choice. "You don't want to pursue his responsibility?" "I don't intend to pursue it." Yang Ming said affirmatively, "So, I have to tell you." Sun Hongjun smiled bitterly in his heart. He thought, "You have already made a decision. What's the use of telling me?" However, he was rescued by Yang Ming, and Tianlong was also caught by Yang Ming, so Sun Hongjun really couldn't interfere. He said arrogantly that he was Yang Ming's elder, and Yang Ming would be respectful to him. However, if he really wanted to talk about it, the wealth and current status that Yang Ming had were not worse than his. Therefore, although Sun Hongjun was a little unhappy that Tianlong was fine, he still didn't express it. He just said, "If this is the case, you can make the decision." Uncle Sun's heart is a little uncomfortable. Yang Ming wasn't a virgin now. How sharp were his eyes! He naturally had a way to observe people's expressions. He immediately saw Sun Hongjun's dissatisfaction. That is not true. How could Sun Hongjun admit it? He quickly denied it. "Uncle Sun, in fact, this time, I knew that you were under house arrest thanks to my good brother, Tian Donghua. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to find Tianlong so quickly and know a lot of information about Tianlong." Yang Ming naturally had to exaggerate the role that Tian Donghua played in the matter. Tian Donghua knew that his father had done bad things, and he was unwilling to help the tyrant. He resolutely chose to break off. "Therefore, I will let Tianlong go based on his affection." Chapter 1272. Sun Hongjun didn't expect that there were such twists and turns in the middle. He couldn't help but sigh. Donghua, that child, is reasonable. He can distinguish between good and evil. This is commendable. "So, I decided to let Tianlong go," said Yang Ming. "Okay, but I don't want to see him again. At least for a while, I don't want to see him." Sun Hongjun said this, which meant that he agreed with Yang Ming's approach. However, after all, he was under house arrest by Tianlong for such a long time. It was inevitable that he was not angry, so he didn't want to see Tianlong. "I am ready to let him go to Africa, my private island, for a holiday and retirement." Yang Ming said, "I have arranged this properly." Private island. Sun Hongjun couldn't help but be stunned after listening to Yang Ming's words. He didn't understand what Yang Ming said. He thought he heard it wrong. Yes, it's a private island. Yang Ming smiled and said, "I bought a private island in North Africa, but because of its special historical background, it was controlled by some warlords all year round, so it became an independent country. Although it is not recognized internationally, North Africa has tacitly acknowledged its existence. Controlled by warlords. Can this kind of island still be bought?" Sun Hongjun was shocked. "After you buy it, those warlords won't withdraw easily, right? They don't have to withdraw. I just let them take care of the security on the island for me." Yang Ming said very casually, Anyway, there are plenty of people. If they don't do a good job, I can just replace them. Listening to Yang Ming's casual words, Sun Hongjun really didn't know what to say. It didn't seem like Yang Ming was bragging. In just half a year, he could control the entertainment industry in the two cities of Songjiang and Jiduan. Sun Hongjun knew that he was not as bold as this, so it was not impossible for Yang Ming to say that he had subdued the former warlords on the island. That island, how much is it? Sun Hongjun knew that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of him even if he asked now. It was better to have a chance to see it with his own eyes, so he didn't ask about the warlords. Instead, he asked about the value of the island. As a matter of fact, although the assets of the Sun family had already exceeded 100 million, there was actually not much liquid capital. A large amount of funds were placed on real estate and other real estate. The funds that could really be used were actually not much. Although the price of an island ranged from tens of millions to hundreds of millions, and he should be able to afford it, it was a little impossible to take out so much money to buy it all at once. So when Yang Ming suddenly bought an island, Sun Hongjun was naturally very surprised. Just how much money did Yang Ming have? How much? I don't know the details. A friend in Europe bought it for me. Yang Ming smiled a little awkwardly. The island that old Buffon bought was directly given to Yang Ming. Yang Ming naturally couldn't ask how much money old Buffon spent. There was no way to ask. First of all, old Buffon didn't lack this money. The price of an island was only a drop in the bucket for old Buffon. Secondly, Yang Ming was old Buffon's master. His identity was there. It was natural for him to accept things from his disciple. How could he ask the price? Sun Hongjun really didn't know what to say. Such a priceless island was actually given by someone else. Then, what level was the person who gave Yang Ming the island? How could they have already reached such a level? Sun Hongjun asked himself. Even if I have more money, I can't just give an island to someone else. Because in his foresight, he could only afford 1 or 2 such islands in his lifetime. Uncle Sun, I think it's better for you not to care about the business here. Yang Ming hesitated and finally said the words in his heart. Sun Hongjun's method of controlling his subordinates was still lacking, which led to the situation of Tianlong's rebellion. He only talked about friendship with his subordinates. Although this could make his subordinates work for him to a certain extent, it couldn't completely intimidate his subordinates. For example, Tianlong finally betrayed Sun Hongjun under enough benefits. Oh. Have you decided to take over? Sun Hongjun was slightly stunned and asked with a smile. Letting Yang Ming take over was also Sun Hongjun's ultimate goal. Now that he heard Yang Ming mention it, he thought that Yang Ming agreed to his proposal. Take over. This time, it was Yang Ming's turn to be stunned, but after thinking about it, he knew that Sun Hongjun had misunderstood. So, he quickly said, Uncle Sun, you misunderstood. I mean to let you give up the business here. Give up? What do you mean? Sun Hongjun didn't understand Yang Ming's words, but he also faintly guessed something. Yang Ming, why don't I understand what you mean? Uncle Sun, don't blame me for overstepping my authority. I have promised Tian Donghua before that the business in Donghai will be handed over to him in the future. Yang Ming was indeed a little embarrassed. Although the Sun family's property was not much, it was not his own after all. It was indeed not right for him to act first and report later. What? Let Tian Donghua take care of it. Sun Hongjun listened to Yang Ming's words and looked at Yang Ming. However, when he saw that Yang Ming didn't seem to be joking, he thought that he heard it wrong. Yang Ming, did I hear it wrong? You mean you want to hand over our Sun family's business to Tian Donghua? I have already promised him this before. When Yang Ming saw Sun Hongjun's appearance at the moment, he knew that he had gone overboard. At least, he should have discussed it with him in advance. Sun Hongjun looked at Yang Ming silently and didn't say a word. Sun Hongjun was very uncomfortable in his heart. However, after a while, he waved his hand and said, "Forget it. Since we were all rescued by you, I naturally have to listen to your words. Otherwise, this family business would have fallen into Tianlong's hands. Now that we're free, it's already very good. You can make the decision on these matters. Uncle Sun." The more Sun Hongjun said this, the more uncomfortable Yang Ming's heart was. "Don't say it." Sun Hongjun smiled bitterly. "Originally, these family businesses were left to you in the future. You just dealt with it early. Uncle Sun, you listen to me." Yang Ming wanted to explain, but Sun Hongjun waved his hand. "You listen to me." Sun Hongjun said, "After you listen to me, it's not too late to make the final decision. Do you know how much the assets of the Sun family's business are now? It is nearly 200 million. Do you plan to give it away casually?" "Uncle Sun, in fact, there are some words that I plan to talk to you in detail in a few days, but since I have already said it here, then I might as well say it directly." Yang Ming saw that Sun Hongjun was insisting on the 200 million assets instead of making his own decision, so he was slightly relieved. "And what?" Sun Hongjun felt that Yang Ming had a hidden meaning in his words. He calmed down. He also felt that Yang Ming was not the kind of prodigal who would casually give away the family business. From the speed of Yang Ming's accumulation of wealth, it could be seen that he was not a stupid person. Therefore, if Yang Ming could really give away the assets worth more than 200 million, then it could only mean that either Yang Ming had other purposes, or Yang Ming's wealth had far exceeded this 200 million. "Uncle Sun, I am planning to build the island of Country X in Africa into a world-class resort island." Yang Ming said, "I believe that Uncle Sun is not unfamiliar with Henry Island, right?" "And I have been to Henry Island. It is indeed a paradise on earth, a world of entertainment for the rich." Sun Hongjun nodded and said, "Do you want to build a similar island? The construction cost of this isn't low." Yang Ming nodded and said, "I know that the construction cost aren't low, but I still have the strength to build it now." As Yang Ming spoke, he turned on the computer on the table, logged into a bank account inquiry website, and entered his account number in the Swiss bank. Because the internet could only be inquired not transferred, Yang Ming was not afraid of any viruses or other things in this computer. Yang Ming opened the details under his account and transferred the computer screen to Sun Hongjun. Then, he said, "Uncle Sun, this is the cash I currently have." "Oh?" Sun Hongjun didn't take it seriously at the beginning. He casually raised his head and looked at the computer screen. However, at first glance, his eyes were fixed on the screen: 1 0, 2 zeros, 3 zeros, 4 zeros, 5 zeros, 6 zeros. Sun Hongjun widened his eyes and began to count the zeros behind the string of numbers on the screen. "More than 30 billion. Yang Ming smiled and nodded gently. Sun Hongjun opened his mouth wide in amazement, but when he saw the euro currency symbol in front of the 30 billion, he almost fainted. After a long while, he said, "It's still the euro." Yes. This was the black gold that Yang Ming got from Dorsk. However, after that, Yang Ming received a lot of mineral contracting fees in Country X. Those naturally weren't included. It was enough to build Country X into a world-class resort island with that money. "I finally know why you don't care about my family property." Sun Hongjun was worthy of being a person who did great things. He quickly recovered from the brief shock and laughed at himself. "Since you don't care, then I have nothing to say. Your money is enough to spend for several lifetimes. Uncle Sun, the purpose of showing you this money is not to show off, but to reassure you. Don't let money affect your energy. Yang Ming said with a smile. In fact, the money to build the island can be completely self-sufficient on the island. There are rich minerals on the island. They can't be mined for hundreds of years. I have already contracted out those minerals. The income is enough to build the island. Yang Ming said with a smile. Ah. It turns out to be like this. The island also has the rent of minerals. Sun Hongjun also roughly heard that North Africa was rich in minerals, so he didn't find it strange when he heard Yang Ming say so. The people under me can do a lot of work. One of them can do 10. They can bully those warlords, but they are much worse when it comes to management. Yang Ming said, so Uncle Sun, I want to invite you to take charge of the island strategy and development. Me? Sun Hongjun listened to Yang Ming and was immediately moved, but then he smiled bitterly. I was almost scammed by Tianlong. How do you think I am still competent for this job? Uncle Sun, you can rest assured and manage it. Don't think about the way of governance. They won't dare to rebel. Yang Ming smiled. Sun Hongjun was a person with courage and ability. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to make Sun's enterprise big and strong in just a few years. He just didn't know how to restrain his subordinates, but this didn't hinder his business talent. Therefore, Yang Ming put him in this position. He didn't need to be on guard against his subordinates lying to him, but he just needed to use his talents as much as possible. Yang Ming had absolute certainty that the people over there wouldn't dare to betray him because no one wanted to die. They knew Yang Ming's true strength, so no one dared to go against Yang Ming. In this way, without these worries, Sun Hongjun could carry out his grand plan. Oh. Sun Hongjun, on the other hand, looked at Yang Ming with great interest. He realized that he had never understood Yang Ming. This boy, who looked a few years younger than him, had an unusual ability. How about it, Uncle Sun? Do you have this thought? Yang Ming asked with a smile. If Sun Hongjun didn't want to show his ideals and ambitions on a bigger platform, it was impossible. Now that this good opportunity was in front of him, how could he not be tempted? Sun Hongjun's only worry was that he couldn't do it well and not be competent. I naturally don't want to miss such a good opportunity, but have you thought about the source of customers? I will try my best to make it a paradise, but I can't control the customer's thoughts. You don't have to worry about this. Yang Ming knew Sun Hongjun's concerns after listening to his words. Although Sun Hongjun also wanted to show his ambitions, he was also afraid that he would lose money to Yang Ming if he couldn't do it well. The source of customers was the most important problem. If the customers didn't come, it would be useless no matter how well it was built. So, Yang Ming explained to him, the person who gave me this island is called Old Buffon. He is the patriarch of one of the most famous families in Europe, the Buffon family. He has deep connections in Europe's upper class. Just leave the guest aspect to him. Old Buffon. After Sun Hongjun listened to Yang Ming's words, he fell into deep thought and suddenly said, I remember. This old Buffon seems to have come to our place before. The TV and news also reported that he is a very famous person in Europe. Yes. That's him. Yang Ming said, Uncle Sun, now you won't worry about it anymore, right? Yang Ming, I really don't understand you more and more. Sun Hongjun sighed. I really don't know how you know these people and how you gathered this wealth. Uncle Sun, after having a bigger platform, will you still care about these assets in Donghai? Yang Ming asked with a smile. This, of course not. Sun Hongjun smiled and sighed. Times have changed. Now, I suddenly feel that my horizons have been broadened a lot. The business in Donghai will be handed over to little Jia and third uncle to manage first. When the right opportunity comes, we will all go over. The business here will be handed over to Tian Donghua. Yang Ming said. Just do what you say. Sun Hongjun didn't expect that he still had a chance to develop his grand plan. He thought that he would retire after this incident. Through this incident, Sun Hongjun also understood where his weakness was. That was, he didn't restrain his subordinates well, which caused such a huge consequence. Now, since Yang Ming let him not control his subordinates and directly follow his own ideas, Sun Hongjun also saved a lot of trouble. Although he didn't know how Yang Ming restrained his subordinates, he thought that those subordinates were afraid of Yang Ming. With Sun Hongjun's plan in place, both of them were very happy to leave the office. Sun San naturally wouldn't ask much. He knew the rules, but Sun Jia wasn't very happy. Yang Ming was talking to her father behind her back. This feeling was really uncomfortable. Dad, what were you talking about? You talked for so long. Sun Jia couldn't help but ask. Yang Ming is going to send me, this old man, to Africa. Sun Hongjun said with a smile. What? Africa? What happened? Sun Jia heard it inexplicably and didn't understand. Sun Hongjun glanced at Yang Ming and saw that Yang Ming nodded slightly, so Sun Hongjun told Sun Jia about the incident. Sun Jia listened and clicked her tongue. Sun Jia never thought that Yang Ming actually had an island in Africa. Thinking of Yang Ming hiding it from her, she couldn't help but glare at Yang Ming. Yang Ming was really complaining. Little Jia, I only got the island when I went out this time. Before I could tell you when I came back, you were put under house arrest by Tian Long. After listening to Yang Ming's explanation, Sun Jia was relieved. It wasn't that she was stingy, but now she had recognized Yang Ming in her heart. She felt that she was already Yang Ming's woman. Yang Ming shouldn't hide anything from her. This was the change in Sun Jia's mentality. Even she didn't notice it. Uncle Sun, don't you want to see Tian Long? Yang Ming glanced at Sun Hongjun and asked. Sun Hongjun listened to Yang Ming's words and hesitated in his heart. He also knew that Yang Ming also intended to send Tian Long to Africa. That was Yang Ming's territory. Naturally, he wasn't afraid that Tian Long would play other tricks. However, Sun Hongjun still couldn't let it go, even though Yang Ming had decided not to deal with Tian Long. Then let's see. Sun Hongjun hesitated again and again before making a decision. This guy has a lot of ideas. When he goes to Africa, he can be your advisor. Yang Ming smiled. Then you're not afraid that he will play such a trick again? Sun Hongjun was not at ease with Tian Long. As long as he can buy my men, then he is capable. Yang Ming snorted. He thought, even if Tian Long gives them more money, they don't dare to play with their lives. Sun Hongjun also nodded. He also felt that Yang Ming must have something to rely on, so he was so assured with Tian Long. The two people walked to Tian Long's room together. Yang Ming naturally looked for Tian Long for something. Yang Ming wanted to wait for Tian Long to calm down completely and ask him about the behind-the-scenes boss. For Tian Long, Yang Ming really didn't have much hatred because he was just a chess piece of the behind-the-scenes boss. Yang Ming's real opponent was still the behind-the-scenes boss. Chapter 1273. Yang Ming pushed the door and entered Tian Long's room. Tian Donghua was sitting face to face with Tian Long. The two people were talking with a happy look. It seemed that both of them enjoyed the warmth of this moment very much. Between Tian Long and Tian Donghua, it seemed that they had not had such a harmonious conversation for a long time. Seeing Yang Ming and Sun Hongjun push the door and come in, Tian Long was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Sun Hongjun to appear in his room at this time. For a while, the atmosphere in the room seemed to be somewhat restrained. Tian Long knew that although Yang Ming forgave him, it was impossible for Sun Hongju not to hate him. At this moment, he had lost his power and became a complete prisoner. So even if Yang Ming made a promise, if Sun Hongjun insisted on not letting him go, he believed that Yang Ming would not disagree with him. Therefore, Tian Long's heart was still very nervous. Brother Jun. Tian Long's brother Jun was from the heart. He was really very fearful. It was not like before, when he spoke to Sun Hongjun in a joking tone. Tian. Uncle's son came to see you. Yang Ming wanted to call him Tian Long, but after thinking about it, he still called him Uncle Tian. After all, it was Tian Donghua's face. Yang Ming was also preparing to send him to Africa as a military advisor, so he was more respectful. However, this Uncle Tian made Tian Long very moved. He looked at Yang Ming and looked at Sun Hongjun. His eyes flickered a little. He pouted twice, but he suddenly stood up and knelt on the ground. Because the ropes on his body had been untied, he could move freely. Of course, if Yang Ming wanted to help him up, he couldn't kneel at all. However, Yang Ming let him do so because he wanted Sun Hongjun to have less resentment in his heart. Brother Jun, Mr. Yang, I, Tian Long, know that I have made an unforgivable mistake. I blame myself for being obsessed before. At this moment, I don't ask for Brother Jun's forgiveness. I just hope that you don't vent your anger on Donghua. Although Tian Long also wanted to live, under the circumstances, he had to give up something. If Sun Hongjun really still held a grudge against him, then Tian Long could only give up himself. When Sun Hongjun saw Tian Long suddenly kneel on the ground, he was stunned for a moment, but then he was shocked. Tian Long had been with him for so many years, but he had never done such a thing. Sun Hongjun knew that Tian Long was a tough man, and would not casually kneel in front of others. But today, he knelt in front of him, which showed that he wanted to protect his son. Forget it. Sun Hongjun was still holding a grudge against Tian Long, but when he saw Tian Long kneeling, his anger subsided a lot. He waved his hand and said, Yang Ming, Tian Donghua, you two go out first. I have something to say to Tian Long. Although Tian Donghua was worried that Sun Hongjun would harm his father was a sinner, so he couldn't say anything. Even if Sun Hongjun changed his mind and wanted to kill Tian Long, then Tian Donghua couldn't say anything. So Tian Donghua just smiled helplessly and looked up at Yang Ming, but he saw Yang Ming nodding to him comfortingly, so the two walked out of the room together. You also get up, Tian Long. Sun Hongjun looked at Tian Long on the ground and raised his hand to him. Brother Jun, if you don't promise me, I won't get up. Tian Long said, if you are still not satisfied, I will commit suicide as an apology. Tian Long's words made Sun Hongjun a little dumbfounded. It was true that he still had some dissatisfaction with Tian Long, but Yang Ming had already talked to him before, and the two people had reached a consensus. It could be said that after Sun Hongjun saw the financial resources shown by Yang Ming, he let it go. Now that he thought about it, the property of the Sun family in Donghai was really nothing, so Sun Hongjun didn't hate Tian Long so much. Yang Ming means to let me go to his private island to preside over the overall work and build the island into a world-class resort. He wants you to be my advisor. Are you willing? Sun Hongjun's face was stern as he asked Tian Long, what? Tian Long raised his head and looked at Sun Hongjun in disbelief. He had betrayed Sun Hongjun like this, but Sun Hongjun actually let bygones be bygones, disregarded the past, and entrusted him with such a heavy task. This made Tian Long suddenly surprised. Why? You don't want to? Sun Hongjun snorted and asked. Yes, of course, I am willing. Tian Long confirmed that there was no problem with his hearing. Sun Hongjun really wanted him to go to Africa to help him build the island. If you are willing, then why don't you get up quickly? Sun Hongjun laughed and kicked Tianlong's butt to let him stand up quickly. Tianlong knew that Sun Hongjun had truly forgiven him this time. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said these words. While thanking him, he also quickly got up. Brother Jun, I have already made a mistake before. In the future, you will see my performance. Don't be too full of yourself. If you don't work hard, I can still kill you. Sun Hongjun didn't forget to threaten, don't forget that it is Yang Ming's world over there. Yes. Tianlong responded in fear and trepidation. Once Sun Hongjun put down the grudge in his heart, he no longer thought about what Tianlong had done before. He began to talk to him frankly about his own future ideas. People who do big things don't care about trifles. Now Sun Hongjun's level suddenly changed from the original helmsman of hundreds of millions of assets to the navigator of an island. His vision was also broadened a lot. Tianlong remembered the lesson this time. He didn't dare to have any improper thoughts in his heart. Now it seemed that Yang Ming's strength was far from what he could shake. At noon, Zhang Jinghua came back with a table of banquet. Yang Ming didn't care about the past and invited Tianlong to sit at the table together. Because of the tone set by Yang Ming, including Sun Jia, they didn't show any hostility to Tianlong. Tianlong himself was very embarrassed. The meal was carried out in a harmonious and friendly atmosphere, but it could be seen from everyone's silence that the estrangement between them couldn't be relieved in a short time. Fortunately, everyone was hungry, so they didn't care much. Tianlong and Tian Donghua didn't eat much last night, and Sun Hongjun, Sun Jia, and Sun San didn't eat much, so this table of banquet was finished in a short while. After the meal, Yang Ming said to Tianlong, "Uncle Tian, I want to talk to you alone." Tianlong looked at Yang Ming with some doubts. He had already talked with Yang Ming before. He didn't know what Yang Ming wanted to talk to him about at this time. But anyway, he couldn't refuse Yang Ming's call. He had to stand up and say, "Okay, Mr. Yang. Just call me Yang Ming." Mr. Yang is a bit awkward. Yang Ming smiled and waved his hand. Anyway, Tian Donghua and I are still from the same generation. I'm not used to you calling me that. Then, I'll accept your invitation. Tianlong didn't insist. He knew that Yang Ming didn't care much about these details. Yang Ming valued a person's heart, not these hypocritical etiquettes. This time, Yang Ming didn't take Tianlong to his previous room. Instead, he came to the room where he talked with Sun Hongjun, which was Tianlong's former office. However, this time, Yang Ming became the master here. After entering the room, Yang Ming sat in the boss chair behind the desk, and Tianlong stood aside like a guest. "Sit down, Uncle Tian. You don't have to be polite. The past is the past. I don't want to pursue it." Yang Ming pressed his hand gesture and made an inviting gesture. Tianlong nodded and didn't be too pretentious. He sat on the sofa next to Yang Ming, and then said to Yang Ming, "Mr. Yang. Ming, what's the matter? Just say it. It's about your behind-the-scenes boss." Yang Ming asked, "Tell me everything you know." "Okay." When Tianlong heard that Yang Ming wanted to ask about this matter, he was relieved. You know, he was now afraid that Yang Ming would change his mind. As long as Yang Ming didn't change his mind, he could ask whatever he wanted to ask. He would tell him everything he knew. "If you want to talk about this behind-the-scenes boss, I have known him for some time, but we didn't have a deep friendship before." Tianlong said, "We met at a banquet. He was introduced to me by a friend." "What friend?" asked Yang Ming. "It's President Hua. President Hua introduced me to him." Tianlong thought about it and said, yes, it's him. President Hua. Yang Ming suddenly frowned and asked, which President Hua? President Hua of Hua's jewelry company. Tianlong added. It turned out to be him. Yang Ming suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. When Tianlong mentioned President Hua, Yang Ming was shocked. He subconsciously thought of Zhou Jiejia's mother. Yang Ming subconsciously didn't want the behind-the-scenes boss to have anything to do with Zhou Jiejia's mother. As long as it wasn't her, then other people didn't matter. However, what made Yang Ming surprised was that the person who introduced Tianlong and the behind-the-scenes boss was actually President Hua of Hua's jewelry company. Yang Ming knew this person. He had seen him at the first dinner table with Sun Jia. He was a very insidious man. It was said that he instigated Guo Jianchao and let Guo Jianchao drug Sun Jia. After that, the second time he saw President Hua was at Liu Weishan's birthday banquet. At that time, he just met him face to face and didn't say anything. After that, he never saw this person again. He didn't expect him to have a connection with the behind-the-scenes boss. But now it seemed that the behind-the-scenes boss actually attended some social activities in the upper class. It seemed that he wasn't as mysterious as he thought. At least, Tianlong had seen the behind-the-scenes boss. Continue. Yang Ming recovered from his thoughts and said to Tianlong, okay. Tianlong nodded and said, this is the case. After I met the behind-the-scenes boss, I never saw him again. Until the beginning of this year, the behind-the-scenes boss took the initiative to find me and wanted to cooperate with me. He provided me with a lot of funds so that I could bribe Sun Hongjuan's men to achieve the purpose of controlling his company. Moreover, he also controlled some of Chu Daming's and Lu Chan's weaknesses through some unknown means. He let me cooperate with these two people. Lu Chan's company was naturally your company, and my side was dealing with Brother Jun's company. By the way, did these two people seek refuge with you? Asked Yang Ming. Yes, the two of them came to me for shelter. However, the two of them were exposed. They are no longer of much use. So, I gave them some money each and had them run away, Tianlong said. Hearing that the two people had run away, Yang Ming didn't bother with them. These two people were just small fries. It was fine if they ran away. He nodded and said, you continue. Although I didn't understand the behind-the-scenes boss's intention, I didn't know why he had to target your companies in Songjiang, but since the boss asked, I could only do it. Tianlong said, but I also knew that the two small fries, Lu Chan and Chu Daming, couldn't make any big waves. I thought that Jiduan City was also your industry, so I thought of joining forces with the Sui family in Mount Jing to deal with your industry. Jiduan City used to be the Sui family's territory, but it was controlled by you. It made Sui Yuejin very annoyed, so we hit it off. When I saw him later, I was very careful. He wouldn't let me have a chance to take a photo of him. Find an expert painter in a while and let him draw a portrait according to your oral description. Yang Ming could only do this. Although he didn't get any valuable clues from Tianlong's mouth, it was worth being happy that Tianlong had actually seen the behind-the-scenes boss. In this way, if a portrait was drawn, Yang Ming could judge whether he had seen the behind-the-scenes boss from the portrait. At least, he knew his enemy well. The first person that Yang Ming thought of was Captain Yang of the police station. Captain Yang often investigated criminal cases. He often found an expert to draw a portrait according to the oral description of the witness, so the person that Captain Yang introduced must be more professional. Thinking of this, Yang Ming dialed Captain Yang's phone. Captain Yang, it's me, Yang Ming. Yang Ming straightforwardly reported his name. Oh. Mr. Yang, hello. Captain Yang didn't know why Yang Ming suddenly called, so he naturally said politely, what can I do for you, Mr. Yang? It's like this. Do you have an expert in portrait? I need to draw a portrait of the suspect according to the description of a witness. Yang Ming said. That's the case. I have an expert in this area. Where are you? I will ask them to come over immediately. When Captain Yang heard Yang Ming's words, he naturally thought that Yang Ming must be performing an important task in the investigation bureau, so he didn't dare to ask more. Let me go to you. Yang Ming knew that there was an expert on Captain Yang's side, so he was relieved. He would take Tian Long there in the afternoon. Captain Yang of the Municipal Bureau. After Yang Ming hung up the phone, Tian Long asked curiously. And, it's him. He has an expert in portrait. I will take you there in a while. Yang Ming said. Tian Long was more and more curious. Yang Ming's ability seemed to be far beyond his imagination. If Yang Ming had a wide network in Songjiang, it was very understandable. But when it came to Donghai, he seemed to be more familiar with it than a local like him. President Hua, are you still in contact now? Yang Ming suddenly thought of President Hua. I don't know what kind of role he played in the whole matter. Chapter 1274. No. Tian Long thought about it carefully and finally shook his head. I haven't seen him recently. He and I are doing business in two different directions. We usually don't have business dealings. Even if I see him, it can only be at a party. Yang Ming felt that what Tian Long said made sense. Indeed, the businesses of the two people were not overlapping. It was normal to have no intersection usually. Yang Ming planned to investigate this President Hua after this matter was settled. He really didn't pay attention to him before. Now it seemed that he was also a character who played a role in a series of events. It turned out to be the case. It seems that this person also has some connection with the behind-the-scenes boss. Yang Ming nodded and said. Yeah, but this time, my plan failed, and I have to go to Africa with you. I don't know if the behind-the-scenes boss will punish me. When it came to the behind-the-scenes boss, Tian Long said with worry, especially now, my martial arts are broken. I don't even have the ability to protect myself, leave the behind-the-scenes boss to me. You don't have to worry. He has a lot of pawns under him. He won't trouble you, and he doesn't have time to trouble you. Yang Ming said with a smile, this is my old enemy. Especially now that you are a person by my side, he doesn't have to take the risk to trouble you. Seeing that Yang Ming was calm when he mentioned the behind-the-scenes boss, as if he didn't take this person seriously, Tian Long also let go of his worries. In fact, Yang Ming was still very afraid of this behind-the-scenes boss at the beginning. However, for such a long time, the behind-the-scenes boss only played some tricks with him. No one could do anything to the other. Including the jewelry exhibition incident, Yang Ming turned the tables on the behind-the-scenes boss. Yang Ming thought that he had more advantages. Therefore, Yang Ming naturally wouldn't be afraid of the behind-the-scenes boss. If he was afraid of the enemy before he officially fought, then he would lose without a fight. Although he could despise the enemy, Yang Ming didn't mean to underestimate the behind-the-scenes boss. Judging from his strange methods of tormenting himself, this guy was also a genius. However, it was very likely that Huang Yukai, the incompetent advisor, had more ideas. Yang Ming still had some understanding of Huang Yukai. This guy had a belly full of evil tricks. If he got involved with the behind-the-scenes boss, he would definitely be like a fish in water. It could even show his bad character. All right. Tian Long nodded and felt relieved. Since Yang Ming said all this, it meant that the behind-the-scenes boss really wouldn't find trouble with him. Those in Africa are my confidants. You and Uncle Sun don't need to worry about their loyalty. You just need to manage the island well. Yang Ming said, of course, if you're not afraid of death, you can do what you did before again. Although Yang Ming had forgiven Tianlong, he had to show both kindness and severity. Some words still had to be said in advance. Tianlong's expression turned stern, and he hurriedly said, "Relax, Yang Ming, I won't. I will know my place and do my job well." "I hope so." Yang Ming waved his hand and gestured to Tianlong, "Let's go out. You and I will go to the police station for a portrait." Sun Hongjun and Sun San couldn't go to the police station with Yang Ming. It didn't make any sense for them to go. Besides, there were still many messes in the company to deal with. These were all left by Tianlong, so Tianlong was naturally very embarrassed. "Brother Jun, the company has troubled you." After Tianlong came out, he saw that Sun Hongjun and Sun San were discussing the company's aftermath work, so he quickly apologized. "It's nothing. It's not a bad thing to reform the company." Sun Hongjun waved his hand. "Right, Uncle Sun, you can ask Wang Renping for help with the company's matter," said Yang Ming. "Wang Renping." Sun Hongjun's face suddenly changed. If he didn't trust Wang Renping, he wouldn't be under house arrest. Yang Ming saw Sun Hongjun's face and knew what he was thinking, so he smiled slightly and said, "He is now my man. He can be completely trusted." "Okay, since this is the case, then there is no problem." Sun Hongjun listened to Yang Ming's words and knew that Yang Ming had probably tamed Wang Renping. However, Sun Jia glanced at Yang Ming with a smile. Yang Ming felt a little strange at first, but he immediately understood what Sun Jia was laughing at. His face suddenly turned black, and he was a little embarrassed. Sun Jia must have misinterpreted his sentence. Therefore, the people in the room were divided into two groups. Sun Hongjun and Sun San went to the company to deal with things, and Yang Ming, Sun Jia, and Tianlong went to the police station together. Zhang Jinghua saw that things had calmed down, and he was a little anxious. He was not afraid that others would know anything. He quickly found Yang Ming before Yang Ming left. "Mr. Yang, about the antidote." Yang Ming saw that there was nothing to do at the junkyard. It didn't matter if Zhang Jinghua was here or not, so he said, "You and Uncle Sun go to the company together and help Wang Renping. The antidote given to you yesterday can last until tomorrow night. I will let Wang Renping inform you of my latest decision tomorrow afternoon." "Okay, thank you, Mr. Yang." Zhang Jinghua listened to Yang Ming's affirmative reply and was relieved. Although he couldn't guarantee whether Yang Ming would give them the antidote tomorrow, at least he would give them the antidote so that they wouldn't die from the voodoo. "Antidote? What antidote?" After leaving the door, Sun Jia asked with some doubts. In fact, in the room, Sun Hongjun and Sun San also had some doubts, but because Zhang Jinghua was present, the two of them were inconvenient to ask. They planned to wait and see. "Hee, do you think that these people will bow down and listen to my orders just because I, your man, am domineering? You think too highly of me." After Yang Ming got in the car, he said to Sun Jia with a smile. "Che." Sun Jia didn't comment on Yang Ming's title. She just glared at him. "Don't say those useless things. What's the antidote?" "I gave each of these people a voodoo. If the voodoo is not suppressed by the antidote, it will break out in 30 hours. Their intestines will rot, and they will die." After Yang Ming finished, he looked at Tianlong and said, "Don't blame your men for betraying you. Is money more important than life? They are not stupid." Oh. Sun Jia's ability to accept was quite strong. "Voodoo? You actually know how to use voodoo? I have heard of this saying. Isn't it the same as the treacherous minister Zhao Yunlong during the Jiaojing period of the Ming dynasty? He seemed to be poisoned by this voodoo." Yang Ming nodded and said, "Yes, the way of death is the same." Voodoo was actually not a legend. It was also recorded in history books. In the History of the Ming Dynasty, compiled by Zhang Tingyu in the Qing Dynasty, there was a detailed explanation. Wen Huo was poisoned by voodoo, and he was punished to sleep in the boat. He didn't talk to himself, and he grabbed his abdomen. His abdomen cracked, and his internal organs came out. He died. It was talking about the tragic scene when Zhao Yunlong died from voodoo. He used his own hands to dig his own abdomen, and his intestines were pulled out. He died. Tianlong listened to the conversation between the two people, and his head had a burst of cold sweat. He secretly muttered in his heart, "What kind of opponent is this? He is too strong. He even knows how to use voodoo. No wonder I lost. Before I go to Africa, Yang Ming will definitely use some voodoo on me." Thinking of this, Tianlong didn't dare to have any improper thoughts. "I didn't expect you to know these things." After Sun Jia finished speaking, she suddenly frowned and said, "That's not right. Are you Han Chinese? Voodoo is not taught to outsiders. Only the Miao people are proficient in this. Do you know the Miao people?" Yang Ming sighed slightly and thought of Lan Ling. He didn't know how she was doing. Although the two people occasionally exchanged text messages, most of them were simple greetings. They didn't talk about each other's recent situation, so Yang Ming was very worried about Lan Ling. Seeing that Yang Ming didn't seem to be willing to mention these things, Sun Jia didn't ask anymore. "Right, I met Sister Yang Xian when I came yesterday." Yang Ming took the initiative to change the topic. "She said that you contacted her before you went back to Donghai. You said that you would look for her when you came back. As a result, there was no news for a few days. She was a little anxious." Sun Jia patted her head and said, "If you didn't mention it, I really forgot about this. Indeed, I talked to her before I came back." "What did you say?" "Of course, I won't tell her the truth. I just said that you have been delayed by some things recently and are relatively busy. Today, I invited her to dinner. Let's go together in the evening," said Yang Ming. Sun Jia naturally agreed. She didn't want to tell Yang Xian these things. After all, this was not a glorious thing. She just pretended that she didn't know. The car drove into the Donghai police station. Because Captain Yang gave Yang Ming a pass, there was no interrogation, and the guard let him in. With this scene, Sun Jia also secretly looked at Yang Ming. In fact, women were often like this. Previously, she felt that Yang Ming had not reached her ideal, so she always felt that Yang Ming had many shortcomings. But once she recognized it from her heart, then she looked at Yang Ming's body, and it was all advantages. He went upstairs directly to find Captain Yang. Captain Yang had already found the portrait expert and was waiting. "Mr. Yang, I have found the expert. This is Expert Wang." Captain Yang introduced a middle-aged man next to him to Yang Ming. Then he said to Expert Wang, "This is Mr. Yang Ming. He is the leader in charge of a case. Please try your best to cooperate with him." Yang Ming's true identity, Captain Yang naturally wouldn't say it. He didn't know if what Yang Ming was doing was confidential, so he didn't dare to talk casually. He just vaguely introduced the identity of Yang Ming. "Thank you very much, Captain Yang." Yang Ming naturally didn't say that he was actually doing a private matter. He turned to Expert Wang and said, "Expert Wang, I'll trouble you." "No problem, Mr. Yang. I will try my best." Although Captain Yang didn't say it, Expert Wang was also a person inside the system. He probably guessed the identity of Yang Ming. He should be a person from an institution similar to the Security Bureau, so he didn't ask much. "Then let's start." Yang Ming quickly entered the topic and asked Tianlong to describe the appearance of the behind-the-scenes boss to Expert Wang. This Expert Wang was indeed very professional. According to Tian Long's description, he quickly entered the state and began to sketch on the paper with a pencil. Yang Ming didn't disturb them. He and Sun Jia left the room and waited in the lounge. How do you know Captain Yang? Sun Jia was very puzzled. Moreover, he said that you were sent to investigate the case. What the hell is going on? Could it be that you lied to him that you are a senior official? What are you thinking? Yang Ming was dumbfounded after listening to Sun Jia's words. Do you think that he is a criminal police officer for nothing? If I just made up an identity, would he believe it? Sun Jia thought about it. If it was so easy to be deceived, then the world would be in chaos. However, she was still very curious. What's going on? Isn't it because of this? Yang Ming smiled bitterly and handed an ID to Sun Jia. Sun Jia took Yang Ming's ID with some surprise. She looked at it and was shocked. You? If it's not me, then who is it? Yang Ming spread his hands and said, although I also work for them, it is usually more convenient to do things. This is true. Sun Jia's ability to accept it was faster. She returned the ID to Yang Ming. Everything is two-sided. I didn't expect you to have such an identity. Actually, I told you before that I am far from being as simple as you think. You didn't believe it yourself. Yang Ming shrugged. Do you believe it now? Who asked you not to say it all at once? Sun Jia glanced at Yang Ming. Yang Ming laughed twice. He thought, didn't I just join recently? How did I tell you before? Okay, tell me about your island in Africa. I thought I knew you very well, but now it seems that I don't know anything. Sun Jia really had this feeling. When she thought she fully understood Yang Ming, she found that in fact, she didn't understand him at all. It's complicated to talk about. Yang Ming naturally couldn't tell Sun Jia everything. At least, he couldn't say anything about the assassin, so he told Sun Jia 90% of the truth and 10% of the lies. Sun Jia didn't doubt it but listened with relish. When are you going to take me there to play? Sun Jia listened to Yang Ming's narration and was very eager to go there. There will be opportunities. We will all go there at that time, said Yang Ming. Us? Who else? Sun Jia certainly wasn't stupid. She immediately heard the meaning in Yang Ming's words. You and Meng Yan and the others. Yang Ming said, when we get there, it will be my territory. At that time, we will hold a mass wedding. You're dreaming, huh? Have you thought about the future? Sun Jia was annoyed and amused. She felt that Yang Ming was really hopeless. He actually thought about these things. On Tian Long's side, with the help of Expert Wang, he quickly drew a portrait of the behind-the-scenes boss. Expert Wang modified it on the computer. The final picture was confirmed by Tian Long. It was exactly the same as the behind-the-scenes boss in his impression. There was no difference. After Tian Long saw it, he praised Expert Wang's technique. Expert Wang smiled and waved his hand, saying that he didn't deserve it. Seeing Tian Long and Expert Wang come out, Yang Ming and Sun Jia also stopped talking. Yang Ming stood up and asked, Uncle Tian, Expert Wang, how is it? It's already out. Expert Wang smiled and pointed to the portrait in Tian Long's hand. Not to mention, this Expert Wang is really amazing. He is almost the same as the person in my impression. Tian Long quickly handed the portrait in his hand to Yang Ming and praised. Oh. Yang Ming took the portrait and held it in his hand. After looking at it, Yang Ming's eyes were stunned. This person, isn't it the man who met Alice in Victoria's photo? It's the man who was with Huang Yukai. This person is actually the behind-the-scenes boss. Yang Ming felt a little incredible. A person who originally looked very mysterious suddenly appeared in front of you. When you found out that it was actually this person, there would be a feeling of disappointment. Although Yang Ming had not seen this person before, Yang Ming had a very familiar feeling as if he had known him before. However, this person's appearance was really very ordinary. There was no special feature. It belonged to the kind of person who was forgotten after turning his head. If Yang Ming didn't have a deep impression of him, he would have a feeling that he didn't know this person when he suddenly picked up this portrait. Now that it was completely confirmed that the behind-the-scenes boss was the person who met Alice, Yang Ming's heart was also relieved. At the very least, he had an enemy. Although he hadn't officially fought, at least he already knew the existence of the enemy. Unlike before, he couldn't be sure whether these behind-the-scenes bosses were the same person. Thank you, Expert Wang. Yang Ming was very grateful that Expert Wang could draw the image of the behind-the-scenes boss so vividly. You're welcome. If Mr. Yang doesn't have anything else, then I will go first, Expert Wang said with a smile. Expert Wang, let's go out for a meal together in a while. Consider it as a thank you, Yang Ming said quickly and politely. No need. Expert Wang waved his hand and said, this is what I should do. I still have other things to do. There is no need for a meal. Seeing that Expert Wang said so, Yang Ming didn't insist. He thought that Expert Wang was telling the truth. With his strength, his daily workload was definitely a lot. How could he have time to socialize? Mr. Yang, how is it? Have you finished drawing the portrait? Is there anything you need help with? Captain Yang also received the notice from Expert Wang's assistant and pushed the door in. Yang Ming hesitated for a moment. Although he felt that doing this would not be of much use, he still held an attitude of giving it a try. Captain Yang, I have a portrait here. Please help me look for this person in the database. Is there any information on this person? Oh. Okay. Captain Yang took the portrait that Yang Ming handed to him. He nodded and said, I will use the electronic version of the picture made by Expert Wang. The electronic version of the picture made by Expert Wang could be directly entered into the database and compared with the facial recognition system. So, after Captain Yang copied it, he ordered his men to do this. After hanging up the phone, she said to Yang Ming, they are at the carnival. Let's go and find them. Where's the carnival? You get out. Let me drive. I will take you there. After Sun Jie finished, she pushed the door and got out of the car. Yang Ming knew that Sun Jie's driving skills were good. Naturally, he didn't hesitate to change seats with her. Your car is very comfortable to drive. Give it to me. Sun Jie touched the steering wheel and said, it feels good. Okay, I will order one for you when I go back. Yang Ming saw that Sun Jie liked it, so he naturally agreed. Anyway, Yang Ming wasn't short of money. It was just a car. This is what you said. It wasn't that Sun Jie couldn't afford a car. She could buy a car for Sun Jiwei directly, let alone herself. It was just that Yang Ming gave it to her, so she felt that the meaning was a little different. Originally, Yang Ming intended to give this car to Jing Xiaolu. After all, he had promised her last time. But after he went back, he still couldn't give it to her. The license plate of this car was too eye-catching. Many people, including Qin Mengyan and Sun Jie, knew that this car was his. If he gave it to Jing Xiaolu, it would be a little unclear. Therefore, Yang Ming planned to order the same car for Jing Xiaolu. Since Jing Xiaolu couldn't give it to him, Sun Jie naturally couldn't give it to her. Otherwise, if Qin Mengyan saw it, she would be furious. It seemed that this car could only be returned to Ho Jinhan. Let him and Bao Sanli drive it. Even if Sun Jie drove, she got the wrong direction at the intersection of the carnival. She had to ask an old man who sold popsicles before she found the carnival. You haven't been here before? Yang Ming was a little curious. Why didn't Sun Jie even come to the carnival? No. Sun Jie shook her head and smiled. After this place was built, I was already in high school. How would I have time to play? Yang Ming was a little silent. He originally thought that Sun Jie should be very happy growing up in a rich family, but it wasn't the case. Although his family didn't have much money before, his parents had taken him to the amusement park. Your boyfriend, didn't he take you there? Yang Ming asked subconsciously. Sun Jie glanced at Yang Ming. Apparently, she didn't want to mention this topic, but since Yang Ming asked, Sun Jie had to say, what kind of boyfriend is he? We were together for only a week. We didn't do anything, of course, I know that you didn't do anything. Yang Ming said with a smile, Sister Xiaoqing told me. Xiaoqing. What does it have to do with her? Sun Jie was stunned, but after thinking it through, she couldn't help but blush. You misunderstood. What I meant by not doing anything was going to the amusement park or something. Yang Ming smiled and didn't continue to dwell on this issue. Since he doesn't count, let me take you to this amusement park to play. What's so fun here? Sun Jie saw that most of the people here were children, and she couldn't help but frown. Of course, it's fun. Yang Ming smiled and said, wait for me. I'm going to buy the tickets. You can contact Sister Yang Xian and see where they are. Yang Ming went to buy the tickets. Sun Jie was about to call Yang Xian, but she saw that Yang Ming went to the ticket booth and came back. Sun Jie was a little surprised. Why didn't you buy the tickets? Give me your student ID. Yang Ming reached out and said to Sun Jie. What student ID? Why? Sun Jie looked at Yang Ming in confusion. Your school's student ID. Student tickets are half price, said Yang Ming. Ha! Sun Jie took out her student ID from her handbag and handed it to Yang Ming. She smiled and said, do you still care about this little money? I'm also a student. Why don't I use the privilege? Yang Ming was righteous. If I don't use this thing now, it will be invalid when it expires. Yang Ming took Sun Jie's student ID and took out his own student ID. He went to the ticket booth to buy the tickets. Previously, when his car was checked by the security department at school, Yang Ming carried the student ID with him. Yang Ming bought 2 student tickets and entered the carnival with Sun Jie. Sun Jie just called Yang Xian. She was waiting in line with Wu Yunqing to buy the roller coaster tickets. She asked Sun Jie and Yang Ming to go directly to them. The roller coaster was easier to find. It could be seen from a distance. Yang Ming pulled Sun Jie's hand. Sun Jie struggled a bit but couldn't break free. She let Yang Ming hold her hand. Sun Jie recognized Yang Ming in her heart, so she completely opened her heart to Yang Ming. She just felt a little embarrassed. She was older than Yang Ming. Would others think that she and Yang Ming were in a relationship? Thinking of this, Sun Jie blushed. Yang Ming, will others say that we are in a relationship? Who can see it? Yang Ming touched his beard and said, it seems that I seem to be much older than you. Except for your big chest, you are almost the same as a young girl. But it's okay. Children nowadays eat well and develop well. You see, those Yao Yao and the others also have big chests. Yang Ming was busy with the Sun family in Tianlong these days, so he was a little sloppy. Especially Yang Ming's experience in Africa and Vietnam, he seemed to have gone through a lot. He really seemed to be older than Sun Jie. If it wasn't written clearly on the student ID, the ticket seller wouldn't treat him as a student. Sun Jia was quite happy when she heard the first half of Yang Ming's sentence, but when she heard the latter half, Yang Ming mentioned her chest. It was getting more and more outrageous. Sun Jia stared at Yang Ming with some annoyance. Why? Do you think it's big? No, I can't wait to like it. Yang Ming smiled and no longer angered Sun Jia. But to be honest, Yang Ming, you have really matured a lot. Sun Jia carefully looked up and down at Yang Ming. Indeed, after Yang Ming came back from Africa, both his temperament and appearance had changed a lot. In the past, Sun Jia always regarded Yang Ming as her own younger brother. She also had feelings for him, but age was one of the main reasons for Sun Jia's concern. But now Yang Ming's skin color was tanned, and his face was masculine. He really looked like a mature man. At first glance, Sun Jia couldn't help but feel excited. There are a lot of things in this period. Yang Ming sighed. People grow up in the midst of things. That's true. Sun Jia nodded. Well, young Axayan is waving to me over there. After we meet, don't mention these things again. Of course, I know. Yang Ming responded. He and Sun Jia quickened their pace and walked toward Yang Axayan and Wu Yunxing. Little Jia. I missed you so much. When Yang Axayan saw Sun Jia, she gave Sun Jia a bear hug. The relationship between the two people was established when they were in school. It wasn't mixed with any interests, so it was extraordinarily pure. Brother, come. I missed you too. After hugging Sun Jia, Yang Axayan turned to Yang Ming and extended her arms. Forget it. Yang Ming sweated. Looking at Yang Axayan's bulging chest, it didn't seem good to hug her. Yang Ming thought, although the two people have a pure sibling relationship, after all, they aren't biological siblings. Yang Axayan was also overwhelmed by enthusiasm. When she heard Yang Ming say this, she also felt that it was a bit inappropriate, so she didn't insist. She put away her arms and said, Little Jia, Little Ming, I bought 4 tickets. Let's go on the roller coaster together later. I'm going too. Sun Jia had never ridden a roller coaster before. She looked at the roller coaster going back and forth. She was a little dizzy. This thing can't fall, right? No, there's a seatbelt. Yang Axayan shook her head. Little Jia, you haven't ridden it before, right? Sun Jia shook her head, indicating that she had never done it before. I say, brother, what are you doing? You didn't bring our little Jia to play. You're not a competent boyfriend, right? Yang Axayan wasn't willing when she heard it. She complained to Yang Ming. Yang Ming thought, today is my first day as a boyfriend, and I brought Sun Jia out to play. How qualified I am. However, this naturally couldn't be said to Yang Axayan. Therefore, Yang Ming could only be a sucker and be wronged. We are usually very busy in school, and we don't have time to play. Sun Jia helped Yang Ming out of the situation. She naturally knew the embarrassment in Yang Ming's heart. It turns out to be like this. You are all graduate students. Unlike me and Wu Yunxing, it's easy to work. Yang Axayan naturally thought that Yang Ming and Sun Jia were graduate students. She didn't expect Yang Ming to be much younger than Sun Jia. Yeah, besides, the amusement park in Songjiang doesn't have so many fun things. Yang Ming smiled and didn't explain. Let's go. It's our turn. Yang Axayan saw that the last round of the roller coaster was over, so she took Sun Jia's hand and walked in quickly. Yang Ming and Wu Yunxing smiled bitterly and followed behind. Before you came, I had ridden this thing 5 times. Yang Axayan just can't get enough. Wu Yunxing sighed and patted Yang Ming's shoulder. I grew up in the army compound since I was a child. I can't take it anymore. Yang Ming was stunned. He didn't expect that they had ridden the roller coaster 5 times before he came. This was indeed enough for Wu Yunqing. Some people were born with a strong sense of balance, but some people needed to rely on the nurturing. Young Axian might be the kind who was born with a strong sense of balance. She didn't seem to feel uncomfortable after riding so many times, but Wu Yunqing's face wasn't very good. If you really can't do it, you don't have to go. Yang Ming looked at Wu Yunqing sympathetically. Forget it. I'll go. Otherwise, if Yang Axian gets angry, I won't have a good time. Wu Yunqing smiled bitterly and shook his head. Yang Ming sat next to Sun Jia and helped her fasten her seatbelt. After carefully checking that there was no problem, he was relieved. Yang Ming was very careful about these things. This was the instinctive reaction of an assassin. Assassins often perform tasks in unfamiliar environments, and they always had to be on guard against others hurting them, so a small oversight around them could be fatal. However, Sun Jia didn't think so. When she saw Yang Ming carefully checking her seatbelt for her, she felt warm in her heart. She felt that it was good that someone cared about her. However, in the next moment, Sun Jia felt that Yang Ming was really not very good, because Yang Ming's hand was reaching for her chest. What are you doing? Although the relationship between Sun Jia and Yang Ming was already very close, Sun Jia couldn't tolerate Yang Ming touching Sun Jia's chest in public. I have seen a video before. When a foreign girl with a big chest was riding a roller coaster, her clothes fell off, and her chest was exposed. Yang Ming said, "Let me check your clothes." Although the clothes worn in early spring weren't as thin as summer, Yang Ming was also afraid of accidents. Anyway, it was his own private property. He couldn't simply let others see it. Sun Jia knew that she misunderstood Yang Ming when she heard it. She had seen the video herself. Yang Ming didn't lie to her. Thinking of this, Sun Jia whispered, "I'm wearing a small vest inside. It's okay." "That's good." Yang Ming breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Otherwise, would have thought of taking off my coat for you to wear. It's such a cold day, and you're wearing so little. I don't know how you can bear it." Previously, I was either in the house or driving. I didn't stay outside for so long. Sun Jia felt a little cold when Yang Ming said so she complained. Yang Ming knew that Sun Jia didn't fight the cold for beauty. It was because she didn't go out often. She drove when she went out, and there was heating and air conditioning at the place. A preparatory bell sounded, and the roller coaster slowly started. Yang Ming didn't feel much. During the days of the European butterfly family's training, there were many more thrilling training projects, so the roller coaster had no effect on Yang Ming at all. Sun Jia was different. It was her first time riding the roller coaster since she was a child. The inertia brought by the moment the roller coaster started made her heart flutter, and then it was in her throat. Yang Ming looked at the nervous Sun Jia and smiled slightly. He reached out and held her soft and cold little hand with cold sweat. He said softly, "Don't worry. I am with you. Nothing will happen." What Yang Ming said was true. It was not an exaggeration. Even if the roller coaster broke down in mid-air, Yang Ming could easily escape with Sun Jia. Sun Jia didn't understand the hidden meaning of Yang Ming's words. She just felt relaxed. This kind of warm feeling was something Sun Jia had never had before. Even when she was with Yang Ming, although they seemed to be boyfriend and girlfriend, in fact, they weren't. Sun Jia couldn't let go, but now it was different. It made her feel like she belonged. Sun Jia closed her eyes and only heard the sound of the wind in her ears. She was not so scared in her heart. The scene of her first meeting with Yang Ming appeared in her mind. Now that she thought about it, she and Yang Ming at that time were very ridiculous. After having a relationship with a strange combination of circumstances, they began to be entangled. Perhaps this is a destined marriage. When Sun Jia opened her eyes again, the roller coaster had already stopped steadily on the ground. Yang Ming took Sun Jia's hand and got off the roller coaster. Sun Jia didn't feel the feeling of the roller coaster. She was just thinking about the little things that happened between her and Yang Ming, but she didn't notice what happened in front of her. Looking at Wu Yunqing again, this time his face was even more ugly. His face was green, and he might have vomited. Yang Axian also found that Wu Yunqing was not okay. She asked with concern, which made Wu Yunqing very happy. He only sighed that he didn't suffer in vain. This made Yang Ming despise him. Isn't this self-abuse? Go and eat some cold drinks. Yang Ming saw that Wu Yunqing was very uncomfortable, so he suggested, eat and drink. You will feel better. Wu Yunqing nodded and walked to the milk tea shop not far away with the help of Yang Axian. As long as you are happy, we are willing to do anything. After Yang Ming finished speaking, he felt a pain in his leg. Looking at Sun Jia's smirk, Yang Ming knew that she kicked him. He had always been overbearing in Sun Jia's eyes with a bit of male chauvinism. He was just lying with his eyes wide open. But then again, Sun Jia liked this kind of Yang Ming. If he was a yes man, Sun Jia would not like him. It could only be said that the character of a strong woman was different from Yang Ming. Sun Jia liked men who were stronger than her, and what Yang Axian needed was an obedient man. Yang Ming smiled. He knew that he said too much, so he shut up. However, he was mercilessly exposed by Yang Axian. Brother, what you said is wrong. Little Jia likes men who are more overbearing than her. We grew up together. How can I not understand her temperament? If you are like Wu Yunqing, you may not be liked by little Jia. These words were a bit hurtful. Sure enough, Wu Yunqing was a little uncomfortable after hearing it, but he didn't dare to say anything. He looked aggrieved. Yang Axian also knew that she said something wrong, so she quickly added, however, I like a considerate and gentle man like my Wu Yunqing. You are destined to only be my brother. This sentence made Wu Yunqing smile again. Yang Ming shook his head helplessly. These two people, it is really hard to say. It seems that only people with similar temperaments can be together. After drinking, Yang Ming took the initiative to pay the bill, but Yang Axian glared at Wu Yunqing. Why did you ask my brother to spend money? Wu Yunqing was shocked. He quickly took out the money from his pocket to return it to Yang Ming. Yang Ming waved his hand with some amusement. Brother Wu, you can treat us later. After listening to Yang Ming, Wu Yunqing looked at Yang Axian. When he saw Yang Axian nodding, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Even Sun Jia felt that Wu Yunqing was too submissive. If it were her, she would definitely not be able to stand it. However, it couldn't be helped. Yang Axian liked this kind of person. Sun Jia couldn't interfere with other people's feelings. The four people were about to leave. As soon as they walked to the door, two people came in. When the two people saw Yang Axian and Sun Jia, they were slightly stunned. Sun Jia and Yang Axian were also slightly stunned when they saw the two people. These two people were called Qian Tangjiang and Yu Tianzhu. They were high school classmates of Sun Jia and Yang Axian. When they were in high school, they pursued Sun Jia and Yang Axian. They vowed to take down these two class flowers, but sadly, they did not succeed. Qian Tangjiang was Sun Jia's pursuer, and Yu Tianzhu was Yang Axian's pursuer. These two people were jackals of the same tribe. After graduating from high school, they didn't go to college, but they relied on their family's power to do well. This carnival was contracted by Qian Tangjiang's family, so Qian Tangjiang and Yu Tianzhu had the identities of two staff members in the carnival. Every day, they acted like tyrants to the merchants in the carnival. They lived a happy life. Qian Tangjiang was responsible for the merchant leasing of the carnival, which just happened to control the lifeline of these merchants. Yu Tianzhu was in charge of the security department. He had a group of underlings. These people who made a living in the carnival didn't dare to provoke them. After the two people dealt with the matters at hand, they planned to come to Haiku to drink something. Of course, it was the kind that didn't pay. The two people couldn't afford to drink much, not to mention that the cost of the drinks was very low. The lady boss could also afford it. What's more, these two people weren't stupid. They didn't rely on a merchant to take advantage of them. They could only come here once a week, so the owners of these merchants let them do whatever they wanted. Anyway, the losses weren't big, and they usually relied on them. These two people were used to acting like tyrants in the carnival. In this small piece of land, they were like local tyrants. Naturally, their self-esteem was inflated to the extreme. They thought that they were the number two in the world. Seeing that the two girls who they pursued in high school actually walked together with other men, Qian Tangjiang and Yu Tianzhu were a little unhappy. However, the two of them also knew the background of Sun Jie and Yang Xian's family. They didn't dare to offend them casually. Otherwise, they would have already forced themselves on them. Sun Jie, Yang Xian. What a coincidence. Qian Tangjiang greeted Sun Jie and Yang Xian like a normal person. Although they were reluctant to talk to these two people, they greeted them politely. Sun Jie and Yang Xian couldn't ignore it, so they smiled and nodded. Yes, it's you. What a coincidence, these two are. Why don't you introduce them to us? Yu Tianzhu looked at Yang Ming and Wu Yunxing and asked. He still had a glimmer of fantasy in his heart. These two people had nothing to do with Sun Jie and Yang Xian. Even if they were related, they were relatives. This is my younger brother, Yang Ming. Yang Xian pointed to Yang Ming and introduced him to Yu Tianzhu and Qian Tangjiang. After the two people heard it, they were relieved. They thought, it turns out to be your younger brother. Then, the family came out to play together. However, after listening to the second half of Yang Xian's sentence, Qian Tangjiang almost vomited blood. Little Jie's boyfriend. When the two heard it, what kind of relationship is this? Could it be that the pavilion closest to the water gets the moon first? However, the two people thought wrongly. They thought that Yang Ming was Yang Xian's younger brother. Then, this is. Yu Tianzhu was not a suitor of Sun Jie. He was not interested in Yang Ming, so he still had hope for the remaining man, thinking that this person had nothing to do with Yang Xian. This is my brother-in-law, Wu Yunxing. Yang Ming grinned. He had already seen that these two people's eyes towards Sun Jie and Yang Xian were a bit improper. Naturally, he knew their dirty thoughts in their hearts, so he did not give them any chance. Sure enough, Yu Tianzhu's face turned black. He knew that his chance was slim, but he was unwilling. However, it was not easy to say it at this time. He could only hold back his displeasure and pretend to smile. It turns out to be Yang Xian's boyfriend. Hello. Wu Yunxing was more easygoing. Naturally, he would not think about whether Yu Tianzhu had any other intentions, so he reached out and shook hands with Yu Tianzhu enthusiastically. Yu Tianzhu snorted coldly in his heart. Although I can't do anything to you, it is still necessary to show you who is the boss. Thinking of this, he increased the strength of his hand that was holding Wu Yunqing's hand. It was like a vice clamping on Wu Yunqing's wrist. Although Wu Yunqing grew up in the military compound, he only had a good physique since he was a child. He had not undergone professional training. Yu Tianzhu, as the manager of the carnival security department, naturally had some skills. First, he came from a sports background. Second, he did not slack off in the past few years. Otherwise, how could he discipline his stupid subordinates? Therefore, Yu Tianju's strength was surprisingly great. Wu Yunqing's face suddenly turned green. He struggled for a while, but he did not open his eyes. Cold sweat began to appear on his forehead. Even if Wu Yunqing was a good man, he knew that Yu Tianju was targeting him. However, young Xan was next to him. He could not show weakness. Otherwise, his beloved woman would definitely lose face. In front of young Xan, Wu Yunqing could lower his posture. It did not matter how she threw a tantrum. However, if it was someone else, Wu Yunqing would not be so easy to bully. Although he did not have as much strength as Yu Tianju, Wu Yunqing still clenched his teeth and held on. Although his skills were not as good as others, the children from the military compound had endurance. Therefore, after being pinched by Yu Tianju for so long, Wu Yunqing's face only changed slightly, but he did not make a sound. How could Yu Tianju's little trick escape from Yang Ming's eyes? These were the tricks that Yang Ming had played before. Seeing that Wu Yunqing was at a disadvantage, it was not a good idea to continue like this. So, Yang Ming smiled slightly. "Why, Brother Tianju? You only shake hands with my brother-in-law, but you don't want to shake hands with me." Yu Tianju originally wanted to punish this Wu Yunqing for a while, but when he heard Yang Ming say this, he thought, there is a fool who takes the initiative to come to me. That's just right. I will punish you for Qian Tangjiang. Therefore, Yu Tianju let go of Wu Yunqing's hand and smiled at him meaningfully. The unspeakable mockery made Wu Yunqing unable to vent his anger. At this time, if Wu Yunqing became angry, he would fall into Yu Tianju's trap. Young Xan and the others would see how ungentlemanly he was, and how he was still angry when his skills were not as good as others. Therefore, Wu Yunqing could only endure it in depression. He decided to start practicing his grip strength after going home today. Otherwise, if he did not get back his face, his heart would not be balanced. After Yu Tianju let go of Wu Yunqing's hand, he held the hand that Yang Ming extended. He smiled sinisterly. "Yang Xian's younger brother, nice to meet you." After that, Yu Tianju's hand suddenly exerted force and squeezed. However, unexpectedly, Yang Ming's palm was not deformed. However, Yu Tianju did not think much about it because many people's palm bones were relatively hard. Even if the palm was not deformed, it would be extremely painful. It was even more painful than deforming it. So thinking of this, Yu Tianju increased the strength of his hand. However, it was too early for Yu Tianju to be happy. When he increased his strength for the second time, he suddenly felt a strong force oppressing his palm. In an instant, his palm was squeezed out of shape. Yu Tianju's eyes bulged, and he almost screamed out loud. If Yu Tianju's hand was like a tiger's pincers, then Yang Ming's hand was like a mechanical arm. Yu Tianju wanted to counterattack, but under Yang Ming's hand, he couldn't move at all. Yu Tianju's forehead began to sweat. Naturally, it was not because of nervousness, but because of pain. His big move that was always effective was easily broken by Yang Ming, and Yang Ming turned the tables on him. Yu Tianju still had unspeakable bitterness. He was obviously the one who found trouble first. Yang Ming was just counterattacking. Looking at Yang Ming's face again, he had a smile as if nothing had happened. It was as if the person who was exerting force was not him at all. What was even more infuriating was that Yang Ming actually said, "It seems that Brother Tianju and I really hit it off at first sight. Brother Tianju is not willing to let go of my hand." Sun Jia and Yang Xian didn't know what the two were doing, and they didn't think in that direction. Naturally, they didn't notice the two holding hands. However, Wu Yunqing, as a former party, certainly knew that Yang Ming and Yu Tianzhu were competing in hand strength. Looking at Yang Ming's relaxed appearance and Yu Tianzhu's sweaty appearance, it was obvious who had the upper hand. While Wu Yunqing was secretly happy, he was also a little ashamed. Yang Ming is really powerful. I still can't do it. It seems that I have to strengthen my training in the future. However, Yang Ming avenged him, and his heart was a lot more relaxed. He was not as depressed as before. Yu Tianzhu really had unspeakable bitterness. There was a saying, you reap what you sow. He really experienced it. Fortunately, Yang Ming wasn't in the mood to continue to care about him. Otherwise, it would be troublesome to cripple this person's palm. So, Yang Ming let go of his hand and patted Yu Tianzhu's shoulder with a smile. Brother Tianzhu and I really hit it off at first sight. Yu Tianzhu was almost bleeding internally from Yang Ming's pat. He also wanted to imitate Yang Ming to pat him, but his palm was about to explode from Yang Ming's grip. How could he still lift his hand to pat others? Do the two of you want to drink something? Yang Ming looked at the Ocean Inn and asked Yu Tianzhu and Qian Tangjiang. Others didn't understand Yu Tianzhu, but Qian Tangjiang knew. He was very familiar with Yu Tianzhu's means of intimidation. He knew that Yu Tianzhu had just suffered a big loss. He was also very angry with Yang Ming. When he heard Yang Ming ask this, he thought that Yang Ming wanted to drink something with them. When they sat together, he would hint to the proprietress of the Ocean Inn to get some laxatives for Yang Ming. He was not afraid that he couldn't kill this Yang Ming. Thinking of this, Qian Tangjiang quickly said, yeah, since Brother Yang and Tianzhu are so congenial, then let's drink something together. My treat. No, we just finished drinking. Yang Ming said faintly. He originally thought that Yang Ming would agree, but he didn't expect such a reply. Qian Tangjiang was a little annoyed, but he really couldn't vent it. He had to endure it. Well, then next time. You guys go and have fun. If you encounter anything, call me at any time. I can settle it for you. As Qian Tangjiang spoke, he took out a business card and sent one to Sun Jie, Yang Xan, Wu Yunqing, and Yang Ming. Yang Ming picked it up and looked at it. The title of Donghai Carnival Amusement Park Commercial Expansion Department Manager was written on it. It turned out that he was a character. No wonder he was so arrogant. Yang Ming smiled faintly and stuffed the business card into his pocket. Since they had said so, Qian Tangjiang and Yu Tianzhu naturally didn't ask Sun Jie and Yang Xan to stay. They watched them walk out of the Ocean Inn. The two people had to vent their anger on the proprietress of the Ocean Inn. They ordered a few drinks and sat down to complain. Did you suffer a loss just now? Qian Tangjiang looked at Yu Tianzhu, whose hands were still trembling. That kid is a troublemaker. He has a lot of strength in his hands. I can't beat him. Yu Tianzhu naturally didn't hide anything from Qian Tangjiang. He said very sullenly. Damn, we can't let this go. Qian Tangjiang slammed the table and said angrily. Yeah, we can't let them off so easily. Yu Tianzhu also echoed. In fact, they vented their anger on Yang Ming and Wu Yunqing. This was only a secondary reason. Their main goal was still Sun Jie and Yang Xan. Although the status of the two had improved in the past few years, they were rich, and they had played with a lot of women. They were always brooding about their first love, especially the things that they didn't get. Therefore, the two missed Sun Jie and Yang Xan more and more. Especially after seeing them today, they found that the two were more beautiful and sexy. Qian Tangjiang and Yu Tianzhu couldn't sit still. They wanted to take Sun Jie and Yang Xan from Yang Ming and Wu Yunqing. Chapter 1277. Let me think about it. As long as they are in the carnival, this is our territory. We have a way to deal with it. Qian Tangjiang frowned and began to think. He had to think of a good way not only to create trouble for Yang Ming and Wu Yunqing, but also to let Sun Jia and Yang Xian have a good impression of him and Yu Tianzhu. What way? Yu Tianzhu was interested. He heard what Qian Tangjiang said and felt that it was right. This carnival was the territory of the two of them. Wasn't it easy to create some trouble? Why don't we come up with a hero saving the beauty? Qian Tangjiang's academic qualifications were not high, so his ideas were naturally not brilliant. After thinking for a long time, he came up with such an idea. Saving the beauty. How do we save her? That Yang Ming doesn't seem to be weak. Yu Tianzhu was a little hesitant. After all, he had just suffered a loss from Yang Ming. If I let my underlings pretend to be gangsters, they probably won't be Yang Ming's opponent at all. What you said is true, but we can do something special. We don't have to find some gangsters to create a conflict, right? Qian Tangjiang said, we can use some more brilliant means. That's great. When Yu Tianzhu heard that he didn't need his men to do it, he immediately agreed. After all, he had been traumatized by Yang Ming just now. He didn't dare to fight head-on with Yang Ming. If he suffered a double loss, it wouldn't be fun. The one who suffered a loss would still be himself, so Yu Tianzhu had to be careful. What's good about it? I haven't thought of a way yet. Qian Tangjiang glared at Yu Tianzhu unhappily. Yu Tianzhu quickly lowered his head. Qian Tangjiang was the one who had the final say here. This carnival amusement park was contracted by Qian Tangjiang's family. He also had to rely on Qian Tangjiang to survive. Although Qian Tangjiang wasn't a good person, and he usually had a lot of bad ideas, it was a bit difficult to come up with a decent idea that must be controlled within the scope of the carnival. Qian Tangjiang thought about it, but he couldn't figure it out, so he kicked Yu Tianzhu and said, "Aren't you usually very capable? Why is there a blackout when I really need you?" Yu Tianzhu felt a little wronged. You can't even think of it, but you want me to think of it. Aren't you making things difficult for me? Wait a minute. Power outage. Yu Tianzhu suddenly had a flash of inspiration. It was as if he had been enlightened by the gods. He immediately came up with a brilliant idea. He slapped his thigh and said, "Brother Qian, I have an idea." Although there weren't many people in this ocean inn, there were still several tables of guests. Yu Tianzhu's sudden shout made everyone look sideways, revealing strange and suspicious looks. Looking at Yu Tianzhu's excited expression, it was inevitable that they would think of some ambiguity. She's pregnant. What exactly did he have? Could it be that she was pregnant? Qian Tangjiang felt everyone's ambiguous gazes, and his face was also burning. Why does Yu Tianzhu and I seem to have broken arms? He glared at Yu Tianzhu and said, "What the fuck are you shouting for? If you have any ideas, say them quickly." Qian Tangjiang deliberately raised his voice. The purpose was to let the guests in the ocean inn hear it and not let them misunderstand. Sure enough, when Qian Tangjiang said this, everyone lost interest. They knew that they had misunderstood, so they no longer paid attention to them. Qian Tangjiang saw that everyone bowed their heads and went to do their own things, so he breathed a sigh of relief. He said to Yu Tianzhu, "Hurry up and say it." "Yes, yes." Yu Tianzhu said quickly, "Brother Qian, didn't you just say that I had a blackout? So what if I did?" Qian Tangjiang frowned and said impatiently, "If you have something to say, just say it. Pick the main points. Don't talk about those useless things." "Brother Qian, I'm talking about the blackout." Yu Tianzhu said, "Think about it. If they are riding a roller coaster or a pirate ship, and there is a sudden blackout, they will stop in midair. How scary would that be? Sun Jia and Yang Axian will definitely be scared. At that time, we will stand up and save them. What will they think? This is a good idea. Qian Tangjiang's eyes lit up after hearing it. We don't have to do much to show our heroic charm. This is not bad. No matter how powerful Yang Ming is, it is impossible for him to find fault with us. We are going to save them. At their most dangerous moment, we stepped forward bravely. This is so precious. Yeah, let's do it. Let's see where they are going to play now. Yu Tianzhu said quickly. But, if we do this, what if other tourists complain? After all, Qian Tangjiang was not a fool. After the excitement, he was a little worried after thinking about it. This amusement park was contracted by his family. He couldn't just mess around. If he offended the tourists and caused some trouble, wouldn't his family make him the scapegoat? Thinking of this, Qian Tangjiang was a little hesitant. Although it was the right way to pick up girls, it wouldn't do if it affected his family's money. How about this? Let's save Yang Axian and Sun Jia first. After saving them, we will save other tourists. In this way, others can't say anything. It can also show how much love and public morality we have. Yu Tianzhu said, in this way, we are heroes. That's right. Your idea is good. Others won't say anything about us. Qian Tangjiang was very happy. He didn't just save Sun Jia and Yang Axian. He saved everyone along the way. Others would definitely think that he was doing his job. Since they had made up their minds, the two people didn't care about drinking. They hurriedly left Hake without paying. The lady boss couldn't help it. She was used to such things. Which direction did they go? Outside of Hake, Sun Jia, Yang Axian, and others were gone. Although this carnival was their territory, it was so big. There was no way to judge where Sun Jia and others went. It seems to be the roller coaster. Let's look for it. Yu Tianzhu looked around and said. All right, let's go. Qian Tangjiang didn't have any ideas. In such a big amusement park, they could only look for it bit by bit. The two people talked and walked in the direction of the roller coaster. Qian Tangjiang and Yu Tianzhu were right. Yang Ming and his group really went to the roller coaster. The roller coaster was similar in nature to the roller coaster, but there was no tunnel in the mountain. It just looked like it was shuttling through the clouds. The difference between the two was not big, so people often confused it. When Wu Yunxing saw the roller coaster, his face changed slightly, but he still resisted and didn't say anything. He knew that Yang Axian liked to play this kind of more exciting game, so he didn't want to disappoint Yang Axian. Yang Axian probably knew that Wu Yunxing couldn't do it today, so she asked with some concern, Yunxing, why don't we not play this today? It's okay. Wu Yunxing gritted his teeth and pretended to be a man. He waved his hand and said, I just drank some cold drinks. I'm fine. Let's go. I will sit with you. Yang Axian and Wu Yunxing had been together for so long. Naturally, she knew that he was holding on. She was a little worried, but she couldn't say anything in front of so many people. After all, Wu Yunxing had already said that there was no problem. If she said more, it would seem that she was looking down on him. Although Yang Axian ordered Wu Yunxing around, she didn't want others to look down on him. This was Yang Axian's strange mentality. Yang Ming certainly knew Wu Yunxing's current situation. Wu Yunxing's balance might not be good, and he had not undergone similar training. So even if he had just recovered at this moment, if he played these exciting and dizzy games again, he might vomit. Thinking of this, Yang Ming smiled and said, Sister Yang Axian, brother-in-law is fine, but I am not. This thing is too scary. You and little Jia go and play. Let brother-in-law accompany me down there. Yang Axian and Sun Jia were both stunned. Sun Jia and Yang Ming just sat on the roller coaster together. Yang Ming was fine. He even thought about fastening the seat belt for her and reminded her about the problem of her bra. How was this fear? Yang Axian saw that Yang Ming's face was normal before, and he didn't seem to be afraid. The two people thought about it and understood. Yang Ming didn't want to make Wu Yunqing feel awkward, so he deliberately said this. In this way, Sun Jia and Yang Ming would accompany them to ride the roller coaster. Yang Ming and Wu Yunqing didn't have to go up. Wu Yunqing was the first to understand Yang Ming's intention. He smiled at him gratefully. Sun Jia naturally wouldn't say it out loud. She gladly agreed, that's fine. You and Wu Yunqing will escort us down there. No problem. Yang Ming nodded and said, let's go, brother-in-law. Let's go and buy tickets. Seeing that Yang Ming and Sun Jia had said so, Yang Axian naturally wouldn't say anything more. She was very grateful to Yang Ming in her heart. She thought, although this younger brother isn't blood-related, he is more considerate and kind. It seems that I didn't recognize him in vain. Thank you for just now, Yang Ming. After taking a few steps forward, Wu Yunqing whispered to Yang Ming and thanked him. You don't have to be so polite. Yang Ming smiled and said, we are family. I naturally have to think about you. I have been carsick since I was a child. I'm even more carsick for these things, so... Wu Yunqing smiled bitterly. It's not that I'm afraid, but I can't stand the feeling of speed. I understand. Yang Ming waved his hand. Everyone's physique is different. It can't be forced. Seeing that Yang Ming understood, Wu Yunqing was very happy. He was closer to Yang Ming. After the two bought tickets for Sun Jia and Yang Axian, they returned. Little Jia, sister Yang Ming, the tickets are bought. Let's go and line up. Yang Ming greeted Sun Jia and Yang Axian. Okay. Sun Jia and Yang Axian came over, but they found that there were quite a lot of people who came to ride the roller coaster. The line was quite long. They probably had to wait for 1 or 2 rounds before they could go up. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.